Where are the low-value men?
The hijacker's passport was found blocks from the World Trade Center crash site. You can believe that. You can believe that. You can believe that.
Contracted COVID, but says with a mixture of medicines, including the controversial horse dewormer that has poisoned hundreds of people nationwide, he's now recovered.
He was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
From the headlines to the whisper star, low value mail, low value mail at 9 o'clock. Where truth and fiction take a walk.
Why don't you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon? You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
Our stories are.
Welcome back, everybody, to an all-new episode of Low Value Mail on this Monday, March 31st, 2025, the year of our Lord. And oh, Lord, what a year it's been so far. We're one quarter through it. Well, we're almost. We're 3 hours away from being one quarter through the year. It is episode number 142 of Low Value Mail. Joining me in the second hour tonight, we have Richard Syrett. He's the host, creator, and writer of The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett. He has a weekly syndicated radio program, also called The Conspiracy Show, which airs out of Toronto. A Canadian, and he's a regular guest host on Coast to Coast AM, and he's going to be joining me. And we're probably going to talk about Canada. So if you don't want to talk about Canada at all, because I don't think I've had a Canadian guest on, and maybe since that moon landing guy from Oakville. I can't remember his name, but he was like, he lived like literally 10 minutes from where I grew up, randomly. But he's going to be joining me, and I'm sure the topic of Canada will come up. And I haven't even been talking about Canada that much. I think last week I talked about it for 2 minutes, unless people call in. At which point, if people want to talk about Canada, who am I to say no to Canada? The chat says, is he Jewish? I don't know. You guys are obsessed with Jews. Really. Something really, really mentally wrong with some of you. But we got I mean, I like Jews too. I just found out that March Madness, 3 of the coaches in the Final Four are Jews. What the heck? What in the actual heck? I'd like to know how that happened. What is going on? 3 of them? 75%? They only make up 2% of the population. Hello? Yeah, Jared. I'm sure Jared will call in. Jared, let me know what's going on. Why are 3 out of 4 coaches 75% chance that the winner of the college basketball men's championship this year gotta be a Jew? It's interesting. You have to at least, it might be concerning. I don't know. Guys, tonight is Monday. Wednesday, Liberation Day in America. Are you guys excited? I shortened it to Lib Day. Lib Day in America. You guys are all getting liberated. This is fucking D-Day all over again. Except with money. Are you excited? Because I am. Because the crazy bastard is actually doing it. That fucking Cheeto. Kidding. He's doing it though, guys. He's doing it. We're about to see some shit for months. For months. Everybody, not I, of course. Everybody else, the dummies, they've all just been, this is some giant negotiation tactic. Art of the deal. He just wants them to just get rid of the fentanyl. They could fucking quadruple the amount of fentanyl coming in. He doesn't give a shit. He does not care about fentanyl. You want 10x the fentanyl. Let's do it. Let's 10x. Doesn't matter. Let's bring every fucking gram of fentanyl, every milligram of fentanyl. Bring it in. Don't care. I mean, he might care at some point. That might be a bit hyperbolic. But people are saying, there's going to be no tariffs, just a negotiation tactic. Yet here we are. Of course, I told you he's going to be tariffing the entire planet. And that's what he's doing. Is he tariffing Israel? That could be concerning if he's not. Actually, I was looking it up. I couldn't get to the bottom of it. I was trying to find out if Israel's getting tariffs. But I think they have like an actual no tariff arrangement, like a true free trade. So I don't know. I wonder if Israel's getting tariffed. Guys, minions, Jew researching minions. Go search this out and get back to me. Wouldn't that be funny? He goes, yeah, every country in the world getting tariffed. I mean, except Israel. What was that? He goes, oh, yeah, we're tariffing every country in the world, but Israel. Why are you doing that? What does Israel make? I see someone says, what does Israel make? They make all sorts of stuff. They make a lot of pharmaceuticals, a lot of technology stuff. Google just bought an Israeli company for $32 billion. That was only founded, I believe, 5 years ago. Cha-ching. Now, I have a question for the people listening live, of course. I mean, if you're not listening live, if you're watching on YouTube, or it's not really a good way to there is commenting on Spotify because, and I do want a response from you. Please chime in. I want to know the point of this show is I want to hear what people think, right? It's like real-time feedback in that sense. But a tariff is in its, most simplistic form. It is a tax. Now, you see a lot of people that are like, oh, it's just a tax. And they don't think anything past that. They just go, it's just a tax. It's certainly not just a tax, but it is a tax. I mean, if you buy stuff and it gets tariffed, you can expect a lot of prices to go up. Not a lot. Your avocado might go from, I don't know, how much are avocados? $2? Probably go up to $2.50. You can stomach it. You can maybe it goes up $2.25. It's not going to break the bank unless you're Mexican. And then you're like, that just fucking bankrupted me. I cannot afford even a slight increase in my avocado budget without completely financially ruining my entire family. Cars are going to go up. That's for sure. Anybody in the market for a new car? Those are definitely going up. And if you think of yourself, oh, I'm going to buy a used car, I'm safe. Incorrect. Used cars are going to go up too, because people are going to think just like you. They're going to say, hey, I don't need a new car right now. I'll buy a used car. But there's only a finite amount of used cars. Similar to what happened during COVID. Remember when used cars were crazy? I had a friend who totaled. He had like he had a Mercedes, but it wasn't anything crazy. I think he said when he bought it for like $30,000 and it got totaled. And his insurance company gave him like almost $70,000 for it, because that's just how much it cost to replace it at that time. It was something insane. Remember, like used trucks, like F-150s were like insane. So if you think that you're going to be one of the smart people and you're just going to go buy a used car, those are also going up in price. Everything, you cannot outrun the laws of supply and demand. Teslas might be a steal, actually. Teslas, you might be able to get a bargain on a Tesla. You just got to push past that line of angry protesters. I don't even get the whole protest thing, because I thought the whole point of Tesla, I could be wrong. Like, I know they have showrooms and like, you can do the odd test drive, but, and I don't know if they do this anymore, but I remember their whole deal was like, yeah, we're just like a website. Just buy your car, drop it off in your driveway, drive it for a week. If you don't like it, that's your test drive and you can return it. And if you like it, you keep it. So these protests are mostly just for show, which generally protests are just for show. But again, my question for people who voted for Trump, which is, I'm sure, a good chunk of you, how much, and I'll be opening the phone lines in about, 15 minutes. How much economic pain are you currently willing to accept for a potentially larger benefit later? How much can you delay gratification? Let's edge ourselves on this economy. How much can you edge yourself on this country and the economy? How long can you go? That is the question. Now, I listened to Howard Lutnick, ethnicity undetermined. Lutnick sounds Catholic, but he's high up in Trump's cabinet, and I listened to him on the All In podcast. Great podcast. I recommend giving it a listen if you're interested to know what they're up to. But they're really floating this $150,000 no income tax thing. The fact that it's even being discussed is crazy. Like, this is every libertarian's wet dream. I know that there'll still be, some tax above $150,000, but still, most people, that covers that must cover like 85% of all people, $150K. God damn, the fact that they're even thinking about this, should they balance the budget? I don't think they're going to wipe out the deficit entirely, but, if that's even on the table, you got to think, hey, more expensive avocados might be worth that. That is a good trade-off. If you told me, now the problem is that politicians often make promises, do not keep them. Or, they say, hey, we'll get you that $150,000, we'll have no income tax, but it'll take a few years. And then the new president comes in and they're like, yeah, I'm not doing that. That's fucking crazy. And look, tax cuts are great to offset prices are going up. Absolutely. But I believe it's about 65 million Americans don't pay any income tax at all. I'm sure many of you fall into that 65 million. I'm sure a good chunk of you do not pay any income tax whatsoever. Now, some of you probably don't pay income tax for ideological reasons. You probably should. And if you don't, you're going to fucking El Salvador and you're going to wish you paid those taxes. But I know that some of you don't pay taxes. So again, I'm sure some of you voted for Trump. You probably voted for him because you don't make enough money to pay taxes, thinking that things will get better and you will have money to pay taxes. But again, my question is, how much are you willing to suffer temporarily in order to potentially get some kind of great benefit? And again, look, like I'll be the first to concede, a lot of this shit needed to be done. America was so far off the rails, if you will, in many things. The debt, the government spending, the border, gay shit. There was so much. Just remember how much gay shit there used to be? Remember, like, everybody was talking. I was thinking about this today. Remember, everybody just used to talk about how white supremacy was such a problem? It's all they talked about for like years. So literally since probably, 2016 to 2024, 8-year chunk, maybe 9. They were just like, white supremacy. It's the biggest issue in all of America. There was like 2 incidents of, white racially motivated crimes that I can, really think of. Maybe there were a few more, but it was, they were making it out like this is the biggest problem on earth. There's nothing larger. Remember, Joe Biden was like that. That's the biggest problem in America is white supremacy. Now they just stopped that. They go, there's way less gay shit, even though today is Trans Day of Visibility. And on this Trans Day of Visibility, I want you to go outside, find a handsome woman, a woman who is likely biologically a woman, but just like, maybe is a few pounds on her or maybe a distinct jawline, and just walk up to her and say, you know what? You are so brave. Happy Trans Day of Visibility. And then just walk away. Just walk away. That's all you need to do is just say, we see you. You're valid. And just walk away. It's a fun time. It's a fun time. It's a good time to be had, right? So these tariffs things, I I'm not even against them. I'm not against them, even though it's trying to destroy my home country, my country of birth, Israel. No, Israel's actually seems pretty good. Pretty safe. But it seems, and I read a lot about this, probably too much, which is why I'm talking about it, because I could be talking about shit I know a lot less about, but I choose not to. It's my show. But the U.S. produces, the stuff that the U.S. produces that it exports all over the world are essentially technology and services, which have very high margins. The rest of the world makes low margin garbage. So you think about it from just that standpoint, if everybody's tariffing each other, you go, seems like this is going to hurt the United States more. You're like, yes, the spatula that I buy from Dollar General will now be $3 instead of $2. But all the services that, all the technology, financial services, all the stuff that truly makes America exceptional. It's the reason why America is the largest economy in the world. You think that could get hit a little bit? And I know that a lot of this tariff stuff is to bring manufacturing back to America. I get that. But do we really want America just manufacturing all this cheap bullshit that we have slaves in China making? I thought we liked the slaves in China. Now, I know that there were downsides to the slaves in China, and it wasn't the slavery portion. It was not that. It was absolutely not that. We were all fine with that. It's one of those things that we all know was happening, and we go, just want a spatula for $1. Remember how much spatulas? I don't know. Like some of you are probably younger than me, but before the dollar stores existed, spatula probably cost $10. If you would be hard pressed to find a spatula before globalization and China's manufacturing took over, the spatula was $10. Now it's $1. It's amazing. Normally things generally go up in price. Inflation, everything goes up in price. Certain things come down. TVs, spatulas. Those are the only two things I can think of. I don't really buy much besides TVs and spatulas. But again, do we want America manufacturing this cheap bullshit? I don't know. Because there is an opportunity cost there. They could be making something better, something more valuable. So we'll see. And I will agree with this because, in that interview with Howard Lutnick, he does say that like a lot of this tariff stuff is a national security issue as much as it's, economic related. And I think COVID taught us that even though I in hindsight, a lot of this was bullshit, but when they were like, oh, we can't get masks and stuff because we don't make them in America. You go, yeah, some things you got to make in America. Steel and aluminum. You go, yeah, you got to bring that. You got to bring that home. You got to bring that home. A lot of shit, though. I don't know if we need. I don't want to use a spatula reference again. And again, this might completely work out and it'll be amazing, but it might not. Because again, this isn't running a business. This is the largest economy that has ever been known on planet Earth. So, will be interesting to watch. It surely will. Next topic. That's how I'm going to queue up topics going forward. Next topic. And I'm going to open the phone lines. Very shortly. Reporters keep asking, I don't know who started this, to be honest. I don't know who started this, where this started, whether Trump said it or a reporter asked him. I imagine he must have said it because I don't see why a reporter would ask them. But this whole third term stuff keeps popping up. He keeps being asked about whether he wants a third term. And he's answered it, and he's like, we haven't looked into it too much, but there are ways of making this happen. As far as I understand, there is a 22nd Amendment. There is a 22nd Amendment, which would not allow a president to have a third term. I believe it was passed in 1951. But he answers it. He goes, yeah, I don't know. And again, there's a level where you're like, this guy's trolling. He just likes to troll. It reminds me of the 51st state Canada stuff, where everybody's like, he's just joking around. You're like, is he? You don't know. He keeps you on your toes where you go, is he? You just have to sometimes dismiss some of his crazy shit as you go, he must be joking. But then you're like, bum, bum, bum. Is he? I don't know. Because he's so all over the place. He just says crazy shit whenever he wants. Which is a smart strategy. Great strategy, by the way. Honestly, every one of us, depending on, where you use it, but just being crazy is a good strategy. Probably not if you work at like an office. You don't want to be like that real wild card in the office and it just says crazy shit and probably they'll just fire you. But like, remember the Gaza stuff? He just goes, yeah, we're going to just take Gaza and turn it into a resort. Everybody's like, what? What are you talking about? And he goes, yeah, we're just going to do it. With fucking Netanyahu to his right. Some press conference, he goes, well, yeah, we're just going to take Gaza. We're going to rebuild it. Haven't heard one word about it since. He just said it. And you go, okay, is he doing that? I don't know. Just makes you kind of lose the scent on the trail or whatever. But he said it. But then Peter Doocy today asked him, which was very interesting because I never even considered this. And this would put Tyson Jake Paul to absolute shame. If this were to happen, the phone lines are not open. Someone's calling, they're not open. They'll be open in 3 minutes. I'll open them in 2 minutes. How does that sound? Okay. But Peter Doocy asked him, he's like, well, if you run in 2028, how do you feel about running against Barack Obama? And I was like, holy shit, I forgot about that. Because if Trump could run for a third term, that means Obama could run for a third term. Man, that's like the fight of the millennia. That's like Jesus against Rabbi Shmuley or something. There's never been a battle like that. That would be fucking. I mean, I love that this country just manages to turn itself into reality television at every step. But that's probably what would happen. It would be Barack Obama, maybe Hillary Clinton as the vice president, or maybe Joe Biden comes back for fucking round 3, baby, the rubber match. But again, I didn't think about this, but I mean, if Trump won, man, that's probably who it would be. It would be term 3, Trump versus Obama. But this is all just theoretical because I believe you need, I think it's 80% or 70% of all the states to ratify the amendment in order to allow for, and then again, you do that. And then 30 years from now, when some fucking Democratic president is serving his 4th term and everybody's like, we shouldn't have done this. All right, phone lines are open, 1-888-949-2969. Specifically, you can call in about anything because that's what this is. And of course, I got the goals thing going. If you want to drop a super chat, if we hit 20 super chats, we'll do an extra 30 minutes of open lines at the end of the show. But I mostly want to hear from anybody who voted for Donald Trump. Ideally, if you pay no income tax because you don't make that much money, how much pain are you willing to take? Economic. For how long? Are you a good little boy? Good soldier? And you just go, bend me over, Papa Trump. I'll do whatever I need to do for this country, which is the correct answer. That is the correct answer. The question is that the case? And one little thing, Virginia Giuffre, I don't know what to make of this. The woman that accused Prince Andrew of raping her as a teenager. Can I say that word on YouTube? Seems like it's just a word. I don't know. Kurt was on here a couple weeks ago and he kept saying graping. I'm like, I'm a fucking 41-year-old man. I'm not saying graping. This shit, we're not doing graping, okay? Trump won. I don't have to say graping. I'm an adult. Okay, this is ridiculous. But anyway, she accused Prince Andrew of raping her as a teenager and being trafficked by Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, etc. She got hit by a bus going 70 miles an hour. Well, a school bus, why was a school bus going 70 miles an hour? Now, she settled out of court with Prince Andrew and the royal family to not disgrace the queen before she died. So I don't even think she has any legal recourse anymore because I think she kind of signed it all away for like a fat check. And now, obviously, some people think this is likely just a coincidence of sorts. Interesting coincidence. But again, I don't think they're doing it to shut her up. But you're like, who gets hit by a bus going 70 miles an hour? The weird thing is, though, and this is where it kind of gets a little fishy to me, is she says she was told that she has 4 days to live. Specifically, 4. She has a doctor who's so good. He's like, you don't have 3 days to live. You don't have 5 days to live. You have 4 days to live. So I don't know. Something seems off about this. I definitely don't think someone's trying to like kill her to silence her. Now, if one of the 4 women that Nick Bryant referenced last week died mysteriously, then I would definitely think something's up. If one of those 4 women in the United States just magically, suicides herself with 2 bullets to the back of the head, we'd be like, there might be some malarkey going on there. There might be. All right, let's get to the phones. Brookings Brown says, and now we have plastic in our nuts. Come on, Danny. I mean, the question is, you have Chinese plastic or American plastic? You're going to have plastic in your balls. Nobody said, we're not getting rid of plastics here. You're still going to have plastics in the nutsack. It's just country of origin plastics. And probably a lot of plastics that are made from products made in the United States. Probably the plastic comes from China and they're just made here. Like I was thinking about the TV thing and I was Googling it. I was like, are there any TVs made in America? There are. Tons of TVs, surprisingly, are made in America. All the parts are shipped from China. They're just assembled here. Likely to avoid some sort of tariff or something. Vincent says rape. Benny the Jet, rape. Say it. Well, this show's definitely getting demonetized, but that's fine because we have a good time. Before I take this call, just a quick thing. Like and subscribe to the channel. If you're an audio listener, make sure to follow the podcast, leave a review. And if you would like to support the show, you can do so. Patreon.com/lowvaluemail, MAIL. I'm giving one Patreon member $500 once we hit 500 patrons. We're on pace to hit 500 patrons sometime in early to mid 2027. So things are going well. Patreon.com/lowvaluemail, MAIL. New bathhouse tomorrow night. Also, I haven't decided on this, but there is a chance. I'm kind of leaning towards making the bathhouse a Patreon exclusive show for the live stream. You'll be able to watch the replay or listen to the podcast. I haven't decided on this, but I'm trying to kind of make some more stuff for the patrons who actually support the show. So I might do that. And also, if you want to see me live, I'll be in Vancouver April 17th to 19th. There's no show on Easter Sunday. And Edmonton, May 1st to 4th. You can get tickets at dannycomedy.com. All right, let's take some calls. One moment, please. Hello, Robert. You there? You're on Low Value Mail.
Mr. Danny, what's good?
How's it going, man?
I'm doing great.
Excellent.
You see, just to start off, did you see maybe you talked about it and I joined late, but you see the Albertans are threatening to secede again?
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about it on this show for weeks. That is my literal theory that is my current pet theory of how Canada eventually does become part of the United States, is that Alberta secedes, takes Saskatchewan with it. And for people who don't know, Alberta basically subsidizes much of Canada through their wealth of natural resources. And then Quebec probably takes off. I mean, there's a Quebec separatist party that is, I believe, second in the running in the province to be the premier. I don't think they're leading, but you could see how the dominoes could fall here and Canada would just kind of not exist anymore. Not as a sovereign nation anyways. You there?
Nice.
Yeah. Are you Canadian?
A little bit.
Little bit Canadian. That's like saying I'm a little bit gay.
Well, I might be a little gay because I'm a little Canadian.
There you go. So what's up, Robert?
Might go together.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
Well, this might be a more JJ topic.
Okay.
Have you seen Dave Portnoy sex tapes?
Why would I watch Dave Portnoy sex tapes?
I don't know. They leaked. He's a freak.
I thought but there was the one like years ago. Remember where the girl, where he had like a fucking dog leash around her neck and something?
Yeah, there's another one that leaked with him on a yacht standing off the side, like bending over a girl.
How's that freaky? He's a guy that has a yacht.
No, it's in public. Like, it was like a yacht party. Like, there were like 60 people on the boat walking by him.
Oh, and he was just railing some chick on a yacht?
And getting like throating her.
Okay. Well, good for him, and I guess.
Freaky dude.
Yeah, that's some interesting behavior.
You see the podcast clip from a couple of years ago where the guy's like, Dave, that's a little kinky. And Dave said, I think it's a little kinky, yeah, but it's not a big deal. And then his like podcast host who worked for him, who I think he fired because of it, was like, that's a lot kinky, Dave.
The dog thing?
I don't know. You go on. See you, Daddy.
All right, later, man. Yeah, no, I have not been up on the Dave Portnoy sex tape news, but I'll go watch it at the break, if you know what I mean. Next up, we have Riley. Calling from where? Who knows? And we shall do our best to get to all of you. I'm probably not going to be able to get to all of you, but I'll do my best. Hello, Riley. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Danny. Big fan.
Thanks, man. How's it going?
It's going well. You wanted to call it. I voted for Trump.
Okay.
And I live in California.
Okay.
Ventura area.
Okay.
Ultimately, my opinion on the situation is our economy is fucked. It's been fucked for a while, and we have to do something. And so it's like, try this or try what else, right?
But you're willing,
trying is clearly,
and you're willing to kind of take some medicine right now. You're willing.
Well, I mean, I think we've been needing to take medicine for a long time. We didn't take our medicine in 2008.
Yeah.
And pretty much it's coming to call no matter what.
Yeah.
Either you're going to take it in the face or you try and bob and weave. And I feel like he's at least bobbing and weaving.
Yeah. I mean, Biden, like, it's insane when you look back at what Biden did. He just literally injected so much money into the economy in order to not have to do this, because that's the shit that gets you reelected, is you go, hey, you know.
So, I mean, I'm a bartender server. So I work, and in California, I worked with a lot of illegals. I knew people that were washing dishes that would make twice as much as me because of what the government was giving them here. Right. They would get free cell phone. Like, so it's like, oh yeah. Oh, one of my favorite dudes, super chill dude, worked in Chile. He's like, well, 1 week here pays for a month of all my stuff for my family and everything. And he's like, I have like a 5-bedroom house in Chile, and 1 week, you know, so it's like
1 week washing dishes in America.
Right.
Yeah.
Pays for a month, 1 week of work pays for a month there.
Why the hell don't we all live in Chile?
I mean, because they won't let you all live in Chile because they have borders.
Oh, that's an interesting little wrinkle there, Chile.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, and I mean, again, some of them are amazing human beings, but half this restaurant left, you know, at least the back of the house, because of, they don't want to get deported. Not even that it's like a big deal, because a lot of them talked about being deported multiple times. They just come back.
Yeah.
But of like them not being able to attempt to try and get citizenship.
Yeah. So what do you think they're doing now? Because obviously they have to support themselves somehow. I can't imagine they just left.
A lot of them are educated and able to get fine jobs when they go back home.
But that's the thing.
That
I assume
like,
they don't want to go back to wherever they came from. They want to stay in America, is my assumption.
Well, so what I hear, I've heard from multiple people around here, is what they'll do is they plan to work here for 5 to 7 years, and that's usually enough to go home and retire.
That's crazy. We're a bunch of fucking chumps in this country.
Well, and then also because they'll like live, you know, 6 to a house that's supposed to live 2.
Yeah.
You know, and so you slum it, which is not even slumming it for their comparison, for 5 to 7 years. And then you go back and you live with your family. They all own a house. So it's like you always have something to go back to.
And you're just retired for life. And you just fucking party.
Well, yeah, I mean, if
live on the ocean.
1 week of work covers a month there, it only takes so many to cover years and years.
Right. Man, that's awesome. Like, those guys got it figured out.
Well, it's also because they're going back to their family.
Right. And it's way cheaper to live
where
they live.
When you have a family, that's what you value anyways.
So you won't mind if the prices of lots of shit go up?
I mean, I fucking live in California. What are you talking about?
Yeah, everything's... Well, go up even more.
Oh, well, I mean, I expected. I mean, California's making stupider and stupider moves.
Sure.
The oil's leaving California. I'm sure the gas is about to go up.
Do you think... you work in the service industry.
I'm working on moving to Florida. The only reason I'm here any longer is my lady is finishing up her medical school, and then we're to Florida.
Oh, all right. Well, then you fucking you got a little lotto ticket there, don't you?
Well, I mean, I've invested in Bitcoin. I got my own lotto ticket.
Oh, okay. So
and I think everyone needs to get on it. I don't think that lotto ticket's over. The entire thing is burning.
That's good advice. And do you think the no tax on tips thing is going to come through? Because that'll probably make a big difference for you, right? Or do you not even claim your tips?
I knew it almost will double most people's income in that type of environment. And one of the best ways to stimulate an economy is to help the poorest people because that money immediately goes in. So I think that the benefit outweighs the cost for sure. I mean, yes, it benefits me, but I think beyond that, like I do that to keep myself busy for not being a degenerate.
Oh, okay. Copy that. All right, man. Thanks for calling in. Appreciate it.
No problem. I just want to say I've been a fan of the boys cast, been a Patreon since week 1, and don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
Thanks, buddy.
So keep it up, Danny.
Later, man. All right. Let's go to Juan. Where? I don't know. I don't know. We're going to find out. Please unmute yourself in a timely fashion, please, because what happens is then I go to unmute someone else and you both pick up at the same time and I look like a fucking jackass. All right, Juan is not figuring it out here. Let's go to Sean from Pittsburgh. Sean from Pittsburgh. Okay, nobody is unmuting themselves. Lovely. Absolutely. This is good stuff. Nobody can unmute themselves. Oh, now it happened.
Danny.
Sean from Pittsburgh. What's up, man?
Yo, Danny, what's going on?
How's it going? See, someone else just picked up at the same time. What's up?
Oh, I'm sorry, dude. No, so I just wanted to call in. So the Joe Gatto shit has come up again, and now Murr from the Impractical Jokers, I guess he's been accused of messaging some minors. I just wanted to hear your take on it. That's all, man. I'll let you take somebody else.
Well, hold on. So this is verifiable messaging minors?
I don't know about the whole Murr thing. I didn't actually read into it, but
that's a big accusation.
Joe Gatto.
The Joe Gatto thing.
I don't.
Okay, not to be one of these I don't believe women kind of guys. Not trying to be that guy.
Get it.
Hold on a second. Let me just put my no ma'am hat on. Look, I don't subscribe to this kind of stuff, okay? Okay, I like to believe a woman when I can. But from the sounds of it, she was DMing him and he was like, "You want to come up to my hotel room?" He was just like, "Sure. That sounds great." She comes up to his hotel room. Maybe the sex was a little rough. She's over 18. And then now he does the new fucking G move, which is so funny, where this is the ultimate move, by the way. If you're a famous person, you get in trouble, you just go, "I'm going to rehab." "I'm going to rehab." And you go, "Okay, I guess you're forgiven." That's just the new thing. That didn't exist a long time ago. You have to be a real drug user. But now he's just... He's just straight up, he's just like, "Yeah, I got to go to rehab. Not feeling good. I'm going to rehab. You can't blame me for my actions because I was obviously on drugs." You're like, "What are you even going to rehab for? You like to have a drink here and there?" It's like two consenting adults. What, you left a bruise on her? I don't know. Shit happens. It happens. Plus, women are the most bruised people on earth. They bump into shit all the time. They have low iron. I can't speak to this Murr stuff. Look, if Murr was texting underage women, That's inappropriate.
God
That is
damn, man.
not cool. Joe Gatto, though,
it's
I'm
not
just
cool.
like, Joe Gatto did nothing wrong. And I will die on this hill. And that's it. That's all I got. For that.
That's all I needed, Danny. See you later.
Later, buddy. Sean from Pittsburgh, everybody. You never know when a good no man hat is going to come in handy. You got to keep them. You got to keep them right nearby because you never know when you're going to need them. Right? Okay, let's take a call. We got Chris from Ontario coming up. Chris from Ontario, are you there? And then I'll get to Aaron.
It's Chris from Brampton. Or should I say Bram-Ladesh?
Bram-Ladesh. I remember them calling Brampton Bram-Ladesh. I looked up. Brampton is literally, it's over 1 million people. I think it's like, I saw some stats, like 80% Indian people.
Man, the census last was like 600K, but easily 1 million if you count all the illegals. Easily.
Yeah. Crazy, man. Lots changed.
I wanted to get into a couple of Canadian topics.
Sure.
But,
I love a good Canadian topic.
I don't want to speak for the caller last week, but with you and Nick Bryant, you guys were talking about Jeffrey Epstein and the island, the video of the island.
Yeah. I had someone, I think, commented on the video, or essentially like
that might have been me.
Maybe that was you, where like that drone video was actually from before he died.
So the thing is, there was 2 drone videos of the island. One from before he was killed, and then one that happened during the FBI raid. Both were before he was dead, but
okay.
You really should check out that Grubstakers video / podcast.
Okay.
Probably like a 2.5, 3 hour podcast. 2-parter. First part's the one guy from Chapo Trap House, and the second guy is with Nick Mullen. But
okay,
halfway through the video, like you can actually see Epstein on the island. Like it is pretty cool stuff.
Crazy. What year was this?
I want to say it was like 2018, 2019.
Okay. Well, he died in 2019,
Yeah.
I thought. So this is right before he got arrested.
The video got released then, but it could have been a couple of years older.
It's crazy that if Hillary Clinton won in 2015, that Jeffrey Epstein would still be a free, alive man.
Roman free? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Trump really fucked him over.
So, did you hear what happened with Canada?
I've been
today.
No. What happened over the weekend in Canada?
It got released in the news that this Canadian MP.
The China where the bounty.
Yeah, the bounty. Some pretty screwed up stuff happening.
For people who don't know, essentially, former police officer. He's like a member of parliament, which is like a United States congressman. He's a liberal MP. He essentially, there's a Chinese bounty for somebody, like for $1 million.
He was speaking at a Chinese a consulate dinner, whatever it was, back in January, and he was saying that somebody should claim the bounty for $1 million that Hong Kong police placed on Joe Tay's head.
Who's a different MP?
Is running. Yeah, he's a conservative MP running in Hong Dong's former riding. You know who Hong Dong is.
I've heard of Hong Dong, yes. So, that's pretty crazy. And also, China last year executed 4 Canadians, which didn't make the news.
Last week, yes.
Well, no. It was last year. We didn't find out about it until last week. But the Chinese government executed 4 Canadians. I'm trying to get Sam Cooper. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a journalist.
I'm actually the guy who super chatted you a couple weeks back about that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to get him on the show because he has extensively covered. Like, people do not realize anywhere, but especially in Canada,
how bad it is.
But like how bad, like the Chinese Communist Party has like infiltrated Canadian politics. It's crazy.
They own federal, provincial, and municipal politicians by the fucking balls.
Yeah,
the same thing with Khalistani influence too. They own our politicians by the fucking balls, man. And like, you got to wonder, what are our security services doing? Like, they're just sitting fucking idle.
I have no idea. The Chinese stuff though is very concerning, and You know, I guess
It is,
I guess
man.
when
And,
Trump says he needs
earlier-
Canada, that might be why.
Well, earlier you were saying about like the whole Trump annexation thing. Like I really do wholeheartedly believe like this is why Trump's fanning the flames, because he knows obviously the security state and the security agencies in the States know how bad the situation actually is. And like, you can't just come out and say, China controls your government, guys. Sorry, we got to take over.
Yeah.
We got to do something about it. Right. Like, but
even
it is
after
extremely bad.
But even after all this annexation talk, nobody in Canada is like, we need to do something about the CCP. Like, that doesn't even seem to be a conversation.
No. And it was only today that the RCMP came out and said that they were providing security to Mr. Tay and that they were launching the site task force, which is essentially going to investigate foreign interference this upcoming election.
Yeah.
So like, hopefully something is going to happen, but I mean, time will tell, right?
Yeah. Those Chinese are up to no good. They had a secret police station in New York.
Oh, they're all over the place in Canada too.
Yeah. They have them all over Canada too, but they have like these secret Chinese police stations that are in different countries. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's just, it makes you fucking wonder, man. Makes you wonder. That's all I got to say.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for calling in. Appreciate it, dude.
Yeah. Take care, Danny.
Chris from Bramladesh. All right, we're going to go. Oh, we lost Aaron. All right, that's fine. That's fine. Let's see if we can get Juan back on the line here. Although he had a problem answering the first time around, so I'm not. Oh, there we go. Juan, are you there?
What's going on, Danny?
What's happening?
Sorry, I think I was clicking the button a little too fast.
It's
but
okay.
We figured it out this time.
Don't sweat it. What's up, man?
Well, like you asked, I am a 2-time Trump voter.
Okay.
From Florida.
Okay. The great state of Florida, my favorite state.
Yep. I grew up in Doral where Trump has his golf course.
Yeah. Nice
and
area.
I actually got to play golf there with my high school team for a little bit. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, my friend plays there whenever he tries to get me to go to play with him there. It looks like an amazing course.
Yeah, dude.
It looks incredible.
It's fantastic. It used to be a Marriott hotel, and then Trump bought it out and just, put his gold chandeliers all over the place. And my younger sister actually worked there for a bit, and she said that was the best job she ever had.
Really?
Apparently, they run things really well. Yeah. Not to toot his horn, but the guy knows hospitality really well.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
Now,
yeah,
as
go
far
ahead.
as the tariffs go, I think it's where, like Riley said, and by the way, Riley, if you're still listening, you're more than welcome to come here in Florida. Check out the Fort Myers area. Very, very pro-Trump over here. A lot of growth. I think you said your girl was doing medicine or something.
Yeah.
Plenty of hotels and hospitals and stuff.
Florida's great.
Look into it. But people need to cut it out with not to sound like a hippie, but the materialism is out of control, man. I'm sure you've seen the ads of like all this cheap Chinese crap from Temu and Amazon and all these like cheese shredders and 23,000 stupid tools that people have in their kitchens now. Like
I mean, my wife buys this stuff
watermelon
non-fucking stop.
It's just so much crap. Everywhere you look, it's just nonstop. Buy this cheap $12 plastic junk. Nothing works well. People don't even know how to cook anymore. It's really frustrating.
Dude,
and I feel like
you're
if you make
speaking
everything
right
more
into my
expensive,
soul, Juan. I might have to put the no ma'am hat
you
back
can-
on.
Dude, you see it? Well, it's pretty cool. That's a good hat, but that's exactly the point. Like, people have no ma'am hats now.
This is an original one. This is off of
Kinda
eBay.
retarded, if you ask me, it is.
This thing's made in America, I think.
Is it? I really hope it is.
It's probably not. Bought it off.
It's probably not. But
no, it's probably not.
But I'm sure with the tariffs, someone will be watching this, and they'll make a hat company here in Pittsburgh or something, and they can make no ma'am hats here.
That's true.
It might cost $40, but you're not supporting Chinese slavery. I feel like people forget about that.
That is true. I mean, I don't really disagree with that. And I mean, a lot of like larger manufacturing, I don't disagree with that stuff, bringing that back because there's no reason why cars can't be made in America. It's just all these like free trade agreements and all this stuff just got everybody kind of moving around. But like, there's no reason Ford can't just take their plants and just put them all in the United
dude,
States.
like General Motors. I'm a mechanic myself. I work with Mercedes-Benz, but I know a lot about the industry. I think General Motors, something like 40% of their cars are not made here.
Yeah. And the thing with the car tariffs, the car tariffs are going to be the hardest ones. They're not going in on Wednesday, the car tariffs, unless it's 100% made outside of America, because there's no way for them at this point to figure out, like, because they're essentially saying if your car has 40% of the parts are made in outside of America, we're just going to tariff those parts. And you're like, you know how hard that is going to be to figure that out, to get that set up?
The math is impossible. It really is. And they get, like, I can tell you from personal knowledge, in the Mercedes world, what I work with, if you look at like a small sedan, the C-Class, for example, the little plaque where you have the identification number on the car, it'll say at the very bottom, made in South Africa.
Yeah.
But the car has like, the transmission comes from Hungary, and most of the engine assembly and all of those parts come from Germany.
Yeah.
But then you have some other assembly. You have like 30% of the car assembled, and then they ship that to Alabama, which Alabama is where Mercedes makes most of the SUVs and the big cars that they sell here.
Yeah.
And then you get like a half completed car. They do the rest here. The math is ridiculous.
This is going to take them forever to figure this out, how to properly tariff cars specifically.
That's why, and I feel like tomorrow probably car sales are going to be great. It's going to be a good day to be a car salesman.
Yeah,
I'm sure some people are going to be panicking, but
that's the thing. The car tariffs are actually going to take a little time, but I'm sure people will, just not realizing it.
Yeah, and like you said, the used car market is also going to take a big kick in the nuts because, you know, supply and demand. No one can get away from that.
No,
but it's just people really need to. One of the things that the car market here, especially in this country, is that people don't keep them long anymore. The lifespan of a car is very short now. Most people have a car for maybe 3-4 years, and then they get rid of it and want something else. 30 years ago, people used to keep cars for 10, 15, maybe even 20 years.
Oh, man. I remember my parents fucking had this Cutlass Sierra that they just absolutely drove into the ground. I think it was like a 80... I think it was like 85. They must have had that thing for 12 years or something.
Yeah, at least. That was the normal thing. Cars, they didn't have all the doohickeys they have now.
No.
And they were simpler to repair.
Everything's computer.
Right now, dude. And in some of the cars that we have, if you line up every wire end to end, you have more than 2 miles of wiring per car.
That's crazy.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And some of these really high-end luxury ones, 110 computers in some cases.
That's crazy. So you're basically saying everybody just needs to kind of tighten the purse strings. Let's just all kind of cut back on our spending a little bit. Can I give you my wife's phone number? Can you just call my wife directly? I'm just going to need you to have. She's going to need to hear from Juan directly. You're just going to have to tell her, look, you got to stop buying shit. I mean, I've joked about this before.
Like
my house looks
Amazon
like
packages are out of control.
Dude, my house looks like a fucking Amazon sorting facility. It's insane.
Seriously, no, like the demand for cardboard has to be insurmountably high.
It's crazy.
I don't even want to know how much we spend on cardboard.
Oh, it's crazy, and it probably all comes from China. I wonder if they'll probably tariff that actually. So that'll add a little.
Who knows, dude?
That'll add a little extra stuff. All right, Juan, I gotta let you go. Thanks, man. Juan from Florida.
Thanks for the call.
Great talking to you, man. Juan from Florida, everybody. Okay, let's take one last quick call. We're going to go local, New York City. If I didn't get to you, I apologize. Hopefully we'll do an extra half an hour and we can chat. Or you can call in and talk to the guest who we'll be bringing on very shortly. We got Fabrizio from Long Island. Fabrizio, are you there? Fabrizio! No Fabrizio. All right, we lost Fabrizio. Wait, did Fabrizio? He muted himself. That's crazy. I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could do that. I guess you could do that. Let's see if we can get Fabrizio. If not, we're just going to go to the break because it is actually breakdown. Oh, Fabrizio, you there?
Yeah, how are you?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Oh, man, loving the show, man. Thanks for letting me call in.
Thanks for calling in. What do you want to talk about? We only have a couple minutes, though, so.
Sure. I'll give you some background story. I am a Trump supporter, obviously. I am surrounded by liberals, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And, I wear my MAGA hat proudly when I go to soccer games and such. But interesting, some factoids about myself. So I was a master gunner for the U.S. Army for 10 years, about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And every single military doctrine that we use and train against our own units has a little-known country known as Kresnovia. Are you familiar with Kresnovia?
I'm not. Is that like some fictitious country that they use in their documents?
Russia, right?
Russia.
So
okay.
Every single military training drill that we perform has always been against Russia, always.
Really? Even still, it's like a Cold War relic.
Tank to tank, infantry, guerrilla warfare, whatever you name it, is centralized against the Russian army. They know eventually we will have to do this. It's a matter of time. So everybody just needs to be ready when shit pops off. Unfortunately, state your plan, and know your neighbors, but it's going to happen eventually. And with the tariffs, honestly, the move to unify Canada and Mexico, that's been part of the global agenda for a while now, right? The first attempt was Europe. When they unified the Germans and the French into having a European Union and came up with their own currency. They want to have that same shit here. It's called the Amero, right? They want to have Mexico free traveling to New York and going up to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
That's never going to happen. Never going to happen. There is way too much, just turmoil in New York alone, right, to even make that happen. You would need to militarize. The whole state police would have to be federal because there's absolutely no way to keep that city secure. I don't know if you've been keeping track of what's been going on with New York, but
I mean, I live here.
Shit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 2 blocks away from Madison Square Garden as we speak. I see it every day.
Why?
Why? Because that's where our studio is. My studio's here. Cheap studio space is by Madison Square Garden. If you want Manhattan studio space.
Look, all I'm saying is that 90% of all terrorist movies that come out of Hollywood happen in 2 places.
Oh, I'm aware.
You're in one of, you're in one of them.
I mean, I've talked about this many times before, but whenever they run the nuclear simulation, whenever they have a simulation about a nuke dropping in the United States, it gets dropped a mile from where I live.
Yeah, that's why Mad Max not Mad Max, Escape from New York made sense when they just walled off New York and just threw all the all the criminals in there.
Uh-huh.
We're going to have to do that. And once the reset happens, again, people are going to have to revert back to their, naturalistic living, but we'll get through it.
I mean, look, New Yorkers are not reverting back to shit. These people have been programmed. They can't live any other way. I mean, it's funny because if we had this conversation 6 months ago, 6 months ago or a year ago, I would have always just said, yeah, I'm just going to go back to Canada. And then I'm like, I don't even know if I can do that anymore. There might not be a Canada.
No, you have to self-sustain. And that's one thing that makes Long Island favorable for the time being because I do have land and I can, I have security around me. Whereas in New York, you walk around and you pick up like 15, 20 different Wi-Fi signals. You know what that's doing to your body?
Cancer is what it's doing. All right, Fabrizio, I got to go because we got to get to the break and we got to get to our guest. But thank you for calling in. Good talking to you, man. Fabrizio from Long Island, everybody. All right, we're going to go to the break and then we're going to be back with Richard. Don't go anywhere. In the meantime, enjoy a clip from last week's episode of The Bathhouse. New episode tomorrow night at 9 p.m. live from the Stand Comedy Club and Green Room. See you shortly.
Howdy, gang. Good evening.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm hanging in there. I'm doing all right. I'm enjoying the Bathhouse with Danny Polishchuk.
Thank you.
And I particularly enjoyed the caller from 2 calls ago who reassured us that the Catholic Church is a massive pedophile ring. Jews were not responsible for killing Jesus, but if they were, Christians should be thankful for that happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the caller's word,
You're welcome.
Gentiles have been up to no good forever now.
Yeah, those Gentiles are up to no good. I don't trust them.
Crazy bastard.
That's why us Jews are trying to genocide them. I mean, we're not trying to genocide them.
What's that? What's that?
Just what the hell was that about?
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of op was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good point.
Yeah, that was wild. That was a trip.
It is funny, actually, Jared, when I was asking him about the Christian stuff, and because he said that he's Christian, and then like when he was, I was like, yeah, but there's all these other NGOs that are like bringing in people, and he said like all these other ones that weren't Christian. He's like, yeah, the Episcopalians and the
Are they not Christians?
Well, they're like, they all separate themselves.
Yeah.
He's just like not but
Protestants.
Jared's definitely like, oh, not my brand. We're not doing that.
What was he, by the way? Did he say?
I don't know.
Yeah,
He said he was Christian.
Oh.
Whatever the ones that aren't doing the Jew malarkey.
Oh, I
those
see.
ones. Yeah. Anyway, so how are things, Chris? You had a good question last night on Low Valley Mail. I was.
Oh, did you think so?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed last night's episode with Nick Bryant.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite authors, and you had made a comment as you were wrapping up the call with him that resonated with me. In fact, I'm pretty sure I echoed basically the same sentiment you said, which was like, there's a time before you read that book and a time after you read that book, and it's impossible to like absorb that information and to not let it affect your overall worldview. I mean, it's just.
Yeah, I mean it's
so fucking crazy.
You can never trust the government.
What book is this?
The Franklin Scandal by Nick Bryan. It's basically about this like government-funded like pedophile ring that was like literally like it was.
Yeah, I think I heard a Matt and Shane episode.
Yeah. Nick Bryan was on Matt and Shane's. Yeah, he's
yeah.
been on Matt and Shane. It's fucking crazy.
I have
How
this
long of a
long
book is
list
it?
of books that I got from this podcast tonight. My God.
Yeah. You're reading.
Most
Start
by
with
one
Mein
guy.
Kampf.
I'm going to be sitting on the toilet a lot.
Yeah. Latter-day Saint. Jared's saying he's a Latter-day Saint. LDS.
He's a Mormon? Get the fuck out of here.
No, I'm guessing he's joking about that.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they refer to themselves as Christian. All right, Chris. Do you have anything you want to talk about? Barry, you got to go?
No, I got to put my sweat.
Getting a little chilly?
You broke up just a little bit there, Danny. What was that you said?
I was just wondering if this is what you want to talk about.
Yeah, I didn't have a whole lot in particular that I had been planning on speaking about tonight. In fact, I was that's incorrect. I was going to ask you about.
He sounds like Steve from Yellowstone.
I was planning on asking you about this most recent upload from that based autist, the leather apron club guy.
Yeah, I watched it. I messaged him. I really want him to come on Low Value Mail. I'm worried that he thinks it's going to be a gotcha episode, but I'm like, I let Jared talk for 20 minutes. I'm like, I just want to talk to him. I think it'd be an interesting interview to interview him.
What is this guy do?
He's the guy who made that website, the Jew Tracker website, with like 1 million socialsentinel.net. All right, everybody, and we are back. Joining me today, I have Richard Syrett. How are you doing, Richard?
Danny, great to be here. How are you?
I am very well. I'm excited to have you on. So for people who maybe don't know you, just give a little rundown here. You're the first Canadian I've had on in some time, actually. Normally, my guests are American, especially with all the stuff going on. What happened here? There we go. Okay. You're the first Canadian I've had on in a while. So how are things up in Canada?
Well, we're preparing for Liberation Day tomorrow. No, 2 days from now. 2 days from now. Yeah, we're all hunkering down. No, things are great. I mean, if you're conservative, which I am, it's a little lonely up here, which is, one of the reasons, people are so concerned about Canada becoming the 51st state. That's not going to happen. Do you think the Republicans really want, 30 million registered Democrats joining the union? Go ahead, yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, Canadian, even conservatives are probably closer to American Democrats.
Absolutely, yeah. Like a Pierre Poilievre, nice fellow, but he's basically like Mitt Romney.
Yeah. essentially. But yeah, so for people who don't know you, you have a radio show in Canada.
I do. I have a
conspiracy show.
Oh no! I have a daily radio show called, coincidentally, the Richard Syrett Show, which is news and politics. That's on Toronto radio station called Saga, as in Mrs. Saga.
Okay.
Saga 960. That's weekdays 4 to 6. And then I have a podcast. Used to be called The Conspiracy Show. It's now called Strange Planet. Funny thing, the advertisers don't like that word conspiracy. Anyway, it's Strange Planet. And then I guest host 3-4 times a month on Coast to Coast AM.
Nice. Coast to Coast is what introduced me to this entire world. I've been listening to it for probably like 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I love Coast to Coast. That was my favorite. I mean, that's kind of where the idea for this show came from, is kind of like an internet style Coast to Coast. So you obviously do a show about conspiracies. Quick question.
Yeah.
So I covered this on the Patreon episode a couple weeks ago. There's new research from the University of Nottingham in England, published in the Journal of Health Psychology, that reveals that people who sleep poorly are likelier to believe conspiracy theories. How do you sleep?
Like a baby. I cry. Yeah, I cry all night and then I wet the bed. That's an interesting study. Well, conspiracy theories. You know, it's there was another interesting study that said something. Now, who was this from? But it was a study about people who are more likely to believe sort of the official narrative. Tended to be just generally more compliant and
sure. I mean that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I mean that's kind of your ideal citizen, you would think.
Exactly. Yeah, compliant, uncritical, just ready to stack boxes at the Amazon sorting center.
Sure.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No. You need people. You need bodies.
But what bugs me about these studies, all these studies about conspiracy theories, they never actually try and examine the conspiracy on its merits. Let's look at the evidence, and weigh the evidence for and against. It's always they're trying to climb inside the mind of someone who holds these views and try and figure out, what's wrong with this person. Well, wait a minute. Let's just examine the actual conspiracy and look at the evidence.
Sure.
Either way, maybe it goes nowhere, but maybe there's something to it. But it's always, let's do a psychological study on, the conspiracy theorist. What is wrong with these people? What went wrong?
Well, apparently they don't sleep well. I think that's the problem, is they're not having their warm milk before bed. Otherwise, they wouldn't believe all this nonsense. So, as mentioned, you are the first Canadian guest I've had on in a while. I'm Canadian. What is the greatest Canadian conspiracy? Is it that Trudeau is Fidel Castro's son? Is there any I'm missing? Are there any better ones than that? Is that the top one?
I think the greatest conspiracy is that Canadians are polite. I don't think we're polite. I think we're passive aggressive.
Yeah.
I think we have a nasty streak, but it's a real passive aggressive.
Yeah, I've argued with this with many people here because they keep saying, they go, "Oh, Canadians are polite." I'm like, a Canadian is not any more polite. Like if your car breaks down on the side of the road in some rural town in the United States, someone is going to come help you. Now, New York City, everybody's a dickhead because it's just different here. But for the most part, it's the same. Probably city people are kind of more assholes and rural people are generally more polite. But Canadians as a whole are not more polite people. And I think actually that stereotype is to our detriment.
Yeah. Also, this idea that we're so tolerant. Well, the problem is we tolerate everything except a difference of opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a good point. But are there any other Canadian conspiracies?
Well, I think, a lot of things that are happening right now with the Liberal Party and, this is funny because now, conspiracies and the news, these are where my two worlds collide. And I talk about this on my daily show, which is supposed to be about news and politics, but it's really, a lot of it is conspiratorial. And that is just, who the hell is Mark Carney, our caretaker prime minister? How does this guy that has 3 passports, hasn't lived in Canada for a decade, suddenly become the prime minister with 130,000 people voting for him in a liberal leadership race. And the rules of the leadership race are thus that anyone who's 14 or older can vote. And I don't believe you even have to be a citizen.
No, you don't.
You do have to be, I think, a resident, maybe a permanent resident. In fact, I don't even think Mark Carney qualifies as a permanent resident because nobody knows where he's been for the last 10 years. So they had 400,000 registered liberal voters, and they ended up basically disqualifying like 2/3 of those votes. And Carney ends up winning with 131,000 votes. Maybe they're 14-year-old, Chinese schoolgirls. Nobody knows. All of a sudden, he's prime minister. And anyone who's not sort of in the club, like Ruby Dalla, and there was another fellow that was disqualified, both of Indian descent. And he's just anointed,
Yeah.
Chandra Arya. Yeah. And then he gets pushed aside in the riding of Nepean so that Carney can run there in a safe liberal seat. So it just stinks to high heaven.
Do you think Trump actually wants Carney to be? Do you think he's saying that he likes Carney because that's actually who he prefers as the prime minister to deal with?
Honestly, I don't think it matters to him whether it's Poilievre or Carney, although now it's come out that, Carney was trying to act real tough in this whole, elbows up, which is just so puerile and ridiculous. This is our new slogan, right? We're going to get tough. We're going to be elbows up, which is, for your American listeners maybe not familiar with hockey, that's a hockey thing. Like you go into the corners with your elbows up. That's nothing to be proud of. That's what a dirty hockey player does. Elbowing is a penalty, right? You don't want to go into the corners with your elbows up. But Carney is trying to act like, this election that's happening April 28th in Canada has basically become who of the two candidates hates Trump more, Carney or Pierre Poilievre. And Carney's trying to act tough, like he hates Trump. The problem is Carney's wife, Diana Fox Carney, is a senior advisor with a think tank called the Eurasia Group. It's a little like the World Economic Forum. The Eurasia Group is headquartered in New York City. His chief advisor, Gerald Butts, is on the board at the Eurasia Group. His wife is on the board of the Eurasia Group, and so too is Evan Solomon, former CBC broadcaster, who's now this star liberal candidate, also on the board of the Eurasia Group. And the guy that's running the Eurasia Group, Ian Bremmer, just wrote this blog. Maybe he didn't think that this would get out into Canada, that it was for an American audience, but he admitted in this blog that once Carney wins the election, he's just going to fold and give Trump what he wants.
Which is what? Which is what? Just no retaliation to the tariffs?
Right, or they'll renegotiate the USMCA, and who knows, maybe they'll get rid of the dairy cartel or something like that, or the subsidies and the tariffs on dairy products, and who cares really? But the point is that Carney's just playing voters for fools because he's going to give Trump what he wants anyway.
Yeah, and he's got a huge lead. It's if you trust the betting markets, which were predicted the last U.S. election. He's got a massive lead now.
Yeah, that is kind of, it causes one to despair, I have to say. But I mean, COVID proved to me, 80% of Canadians are they're just compliant, bots or pod people.
NPCs.
Yeah.
If you would. So I wanted to talk about we were talking about conspiracy theories. And obviously the term conspiracy theorist comes from the JFK files. Have you, they had this video from NBC. NBC was purporting to have some video, which I can't get to the bottom of whether this is real or not, but essentially purporting to have a video from the day of the assassination with Lee Harvey Oswald watching, basically proving that he could not have been even the gun. Because I think most people would agree at this point. Like most people think he's the gunman, but most people don't think he acted alone. It's very rare, which is crazy if you think about it, that, even in the United States, like I do a joke about it and most people in the audience very rarely, like if you go to Dealey Plaza, 0 people, maybe 1 person there thinks he just did it. Like nobody even believes it. Like the school book depository, they had a sign and they had to change the sign on the outside to, it says, this is where Lee Harvey Oswald allegedly shot JFK. That's what it says. That's what it says now on the actual school book depository, right? Because like nobody believes it. But so I believe you are kind of the assumption that he kind of in line with the NBC thing where in fact he was not even the gunman.
Yeah. Was it, who was it that claimed that? Was it Luna?
Luna. Yeah.
Anna Paulina Luna. Yeah. She's from Florida, right? Congresswoman. She claims, NBC has been sitting on this video or film, I guess, of Oswald down by the presidential limo. Now, does it exist? I don't know. I think Oliver Stone, someone claims that Oliver Stone says he saw it. I don't know if that's true. But there's a photograph. It was taken by an AP photographer by the name of Ike Altkins. And it shows a guy that looks a heck of a lot like Oswald standing in the doorway of the Texas Book Depository. And in the foreground, you see Kennedy's limo going by. Plus there are several witnesses who saw Oswald in the lunchroom, which is on the second floor at the time, either just before or at the time, at the precise time of the shooting. And then there were other witnesses who were ignored by the Warren Commission, who were out in the stairwell, and right at the time of the shooting and for a few minutes after, and there was no sign of Oswald, escaping, running down the stairwell, nothing. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of difficult to place Oswald on the sixth floor.
So then have you had a chance to look over the JFK files that they released?
No. 80,000 pages, my gosh. And to be honest, Danny, I think, I'm pretty sure we have all we need to know that the CIA was heavily involved. And I don't think, the CIA, I think the documents, they may be of some historical interest to real JFK nerds. And I use that word affectionately. I mean, people like James DiEugenio, who I've known for many years, one of the top JFK researchers, he's poring over them. He's going to find things that are of interest, but you're not going to find, I don't know, it's
smoking
like
gun.
This. Yeah, director John McCone is going to, there's going to be a paper trail, in a memo, Operation Headshot, great work, team, donuts in the break room.
Right.
It's just, it's just not, it's all sanitized and whitewashed, I'm sure. But we have lots of information, tying Oswald to the CIA in the, I'm not sure which volume of the Warren Commission. There's 26 volumes. There's like Appendix 15 or something. You see the check. It's a repatriation loan that the U.S. government sent to Oswald so that he could come back with his wife and daughter from the Soviet Union. He defected to the Soviet Union in 59, and then he comes back to the United States in 62. The U.S. government paid for it. A repatriation loan. Why would you bring a defector to the Soviet Union back into the United States unless, he's a CIA asset?
Sure. So then wouldn't that be the case that he did shoot?
Well, he could have been used in some capacity as a fall guy. They needed a patsy. They needed someone to pin it on. True. And they pinned it on him. So, there's all sorts of strange inconsistencies that we could get into. Just like the murder weapon. The man like Carcano. The first two Dallas police officers that were on the scene on the sixth floor, they said it was the murder weapon was a Mauser.
Really?
And it only later did they say that no, it's not a Mauser, it's a Mannlicher or Carcano. Now I don't know a lot about guns, but I don't think one could confuse a Mauser with the bolt action Mannlicher Carcano. And then the timing of how Oswald supposedly ordered the rifle from Klein's Sporting Goods in Chicago. I think he ordered it in March of 63. I think it was like March 12th. And he supposedly checked out of his job. He worked at what was it called? Jaggers. I can't remember the name of the place that he was working, but he had to clock out in the middle of the day, walk 7 miles to the place where he would to do the mail order and take his coupon from the Klein's catalog and his check, his money order, and then mail it. That's 7 miles. There's no evidence, apparently, of Oswald clocking out around noon on that day. Nobody said that he was missing on that day, yet apparently he took time off to walk, 7 miles to order the rifle. And then, this is 1963. Do you know how slow the postal service was back then? This order apparently is like the money order and everything is registered and good to go 24 hours later. From Dallas to Chicago, the money order arrives in 1 day, and it's processed in 1 day, and then he gets the rifle, I think, on the 20th. I mean, logistically, it just makes no sense.
Yeah, this is one of those things where I think everybody just kind of realizes, like you said, we kind of all just know the CIA did it, and they're not putting it out they're not going to release it. Like if they did in fact have some smoking gun, that they're not going to release because that would, cause all sorts of problems for them, regardless of the administration at the moment who's trying to be like, we're, changing everything and we want to be more trustworthy, all that stuff. Seems unlikely.
Yeah, the CIA is not going to keep a paper trail. No. They didn't keep a paper trail when they assassinated the president of Guatemala or when they helped overthrow Allende in Chile in 73, I think that was. It's not like we got to keep records here, put everything on the ledger. Okay, we hired a hitman. Where's the receipt? Do you need an invoice? It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. So this is because I think they're saying they're going to even be releasing more documents. I think they released 80,000 pages. It seems like, I had Nick Bryan on the show last week, and it does seem like they're trying to distract from other things they're doing because, a lot of people, this is going to be their kind of main thing they're going to be into for however long it takes to read 80,000 pages. And then, probably another 80,000 drops and maybe another 80,000 drops.
Yeah. I had Robert Tannenbaum on I interviewed him on my podcast. It hasn't dropped yet. And he was appointed deputy chief counsel in charge of the congressional investigation into the assassination. This was the House Select Committee on Assassinations in the 1970s. And so he was, again, deputy chief counsel. This guy was like a legendary prosecutor in New York City. I don't think he ever lost a case. He was all about evidence and so forth. And he just wrote a book called That Day in Dallas. Lee Harvey Oswald Did Not Kill JFK. And, we walked through some of the evidence, and he hasn't looked at the 80,000 pages, and he agrees. It's just, a waste of time. He says it's all sanitized, all whitewashed. Nothing really, no smoking gun. There may be some historical import there. But he told me something I had no idea, and that was that Oswald was seen at Jack Ruby's nightclub, the Carousel, the night before the assassination with Officer Tibbit. Officer Tibbit's the guy that Oswald killed about 45 minutes after the assassination because Oswald fit the description of JFK's assassin, and he was seen in the, I think it's called the Oak Cliff neighborhood of Dallas. Tibbit sees him and approaches Oswald. Oswald supposedly shoots and kills him 3 times. Well, there seems to be some evidence that Oswald knew Tibbit. And as I say, they were having drinks at Ruby's Carousel Club the night before. So there's all sorts of little things like that. Now, that wasn't in the 80,000 page document. Tannenbaum knew about that prior, but again, this is a guy that's appointed deputy chief counsel in charge of the investigation in 76, and he says even that thing was a complete whitewash. They just stonewalled.
Huh. All right, the phone lines are open, everybody. 1-888-949-2969 if you have any questions for our guest. Richard, I wanted to ask you something. I was looking at your YouTube page, not to get too much into Canada, but this kind of caught my eye. Old episode you did titled "Canada is a Myth."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Care to elaborate on that?
Wow, we're really going back on that one.
Yeah.
Now, these are not necessarily my theories. I believe it was a documentary filmmaker on. It had something to do, and this is resurfaced again recently because there's another documentary out there called The Myth of Canada. There's a couple of parts to it. One of the parts is that someone discovered that Canada is registered on the Social Exchange, Security Exchange Commission in the United States. And so they've taken that and assumed that means that Canada is a corporation that's registered in the United States. I mean, I did a little look at digging into that recently when it resurfaced, and it turns out any entity, even a country, has to be registered on the SEC in order to basically do trade and commerce.
Gotcha.
In the United States. So that doesn't hold. But, I've always believed that Canada is kind of an illogical construct. I mean, we don't, as you well know, Danny, we don't even have free trade in between provinces.
No, I didn't even realize, and it's kind of sad the way that Canada operates because, it took literally the threat of annexation for them to be like, hey, we should maybe get our stuff in order. But I didn't realize the extent to which, I knew that in Ontario, you can't really get BC wines. I never really understood why. It was, it's when you live there, you go, it's just like it's just a rule they have. And you go, they just have these rules and they're arbitrary.
Yeah.
I never really understood why.
Or free movement of labor. If you're qualified to work in Ontario in a certain trade, you may not be qualified to work in British Columbia. I mean, that's not a country. If you can't move about freely in your own country, if goods can't flow naturally, that's not a country.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I guess it is kind of a myth. And I have to, I get some flack for this, but I have to say thank you, Donald Trump, for, finally making us sort of look in the mirror and say, hey, wait a minute, maybe it's time we do build pipelines so that we can get, our oil and our natural gas to Tidewater and sell it to other markets. Maybe it is time to dismantle trade barriers within our own country. I mean, this is part of this whole sort of smugness and passive aggressiveness I talk about with Canada. We're sniping at Donald Trump about tariffs. We don't have any moral high ground when it comes to tariffs. I mean, there are other non-tariff obstacles to trade, things like subsidies and regulations and different taxes. Well, we rank actually pretty low in terms of non-tariff trade barriers in the world. We have all sorts of trade barriers. Maybe they're not called tariffs, but they're still trade barriers. Even Mark Carney, this is before Donald Trump and his threat of tariffs against Canada. Mark Carney wants to institute a carbon tariff on all goods coming into Canada that come from countries that don't have their own carbon tax. That means the United States and China. Hello, that's, 90% of the goods that we use here come from China or the United States. So he wanted to impose not a retaliatory tariff. He wanted to impose this other tariff on the United States and China. They're complaining about the United States, a 25% tariff or a 15% tariff here or there. China just imposed 100% tariffs on Canadian agricultural goods like pork and fish and rapeseed. Meanwhile, they also just executed maybe 4 citizens, Canadian citizens. Nobody's
talking about
China.
Well, I said I was talking to a caller before you came on, but it seems like people do not get the extent to which China has captured, like the CCP has captured Canadian politicians. I read about it from living in the United States. I read about it on Twitter and stuff, but you don't really see a lot of people, definitely none of the mainstream media in Canada, talk about this at all, which you'd think would be fairly serious.
Well, it is very serious. I'm in Thornhill. The federal riding next to me is Markham Unionville, and the sitting MP is a liberal. His name is Paul Chang. 26 years.
Yeah, we were just talking about that, and
you were okay.
With the bounty.
Yeah, he's telling his Chinese media people in attendance, maybe you should kidnap my conservative opponent Joe Tay, who's from Hong Kong originally, and take him to the Chinese consulate so that you can cash in on the bounty. And he says, well, I was only joking. Well, excuse me, do we know what they do to political prisoners in China? They harvest your organs, for crying out loud. And Mark Carney is standing behind this guy. He's standing up for him, saying, oh, he has my complete confidence. Well, what does Paul Chang have on Mark Carney? That's the big question. What does Beijing have on Mark Carney? Well, Mark Carney, when he was chair of Brookfield Asset Management, went over to Beijing not too long before he became leader and secured from the Communist Chinese Bank of China a $250 million loan. At the same time, he was advising Trudeau on economic matters. Excuse me, conflict of interest? I think so.
Has everybody just kind of forgotten about Trudeau already?
I think Trudeau's forgotten about Trudeau. I mean, there was one selfie he took in a Canadian Tire store, trying to pretend
he's a normal person.
He was like an ordinary person. But since that photo, I haven't heard hide nor hair from that guy. I don't know. He's back in drama school, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. We're going to take some phone calls. I have one more question actually that I want to ask you because, you're into the conspiracy stuff, as am I. There seems to be there doesn't seem to be a lot of new conspiracies. Is there anything that's come across your desk as of recent? I always like to find new ones. Anything of note? Seems to be a lot of the same trodden stuff. You got JFK, you got aliens.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that a lot of the things that we, people like myself who've been talking about these things for like a quarter century, Alex Jones, a lot of those things that we were talking about 25 years ago, but the emergence of a surveillance state, and that's all just coming. It's all happening now. It's the difference between a conspiracy and the news is 6 months. So they're not new, but they're happening now. We're living through them. And now it's mainstream. Like 25 years ago, when we talked about the deep state, it says, "Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist." Everybody, even the mainstream news now, talks about the existence of a deep state.
Yeah. Is there a big deep state in Canada?
I don't think it's as powerful, but it's more of an administrative or a permanent bureaucracy that it doesn't matter changing government. They basically just do whatever they want to do. But I don't think it doesn't have the influence or the power that permanent Washington, as they call it, has. No, but I'm sure we have a permanent Ottawa.
But just not to the same extent. Randy Fitzsimmons says in the chat here, RFK Jr. blackmail evidence, according to Ian Carroll. I didn't get a chance to look into that too much because it kept getting community noted and everybody seemed to debunk it. And all the commentary around it seemed to say that there wasn't really much to it. So,
well, there is something. I don't know, who's responsible for the blackmailing, but it is interesting, and I like RFK Jr. He was a Democrat. He's basically said, got down on his knees and prayed to God, I'll do whatever it takes to get into a position of influence so that I can help make children healthy again. And then, he says, along came Donald Trump. But it is interesting that he was talking about, the COVID vaccines, and he wrote books about this and how injurious they were and so forth. And here he is, Secretary of Health and Human Services, and they still have on the childhood schedule, 3 COVID vaccines starting at 6 months.
That's crazy.
So people are trying to figure out, what the hell happened to RFK Jr.? Like, why is he not talking about this anymore? So does somebody have something on him? I think, to me, that's the way politics works. It's a dirty, scummy business. And sometimes people that are blackmailable get kind of pushed to the front of the line. Like, the people that assume positions of power often are compromised. And that's how they got there, because the people behind them said, well, I want this person. They're controllable. They're compromised.
Yeah. I always find it odd too with Canada, and last thing on this, but how they were like one of the first countries that were financially compensating people for vaccine injuries, even though you'd think that they would be one of the last countries, in my opinion. But I remember probably at this point 3 years ago now, there was people who they were like compensating for that.
Well, they put aside a kind of a pittance. I think it might have been like $17 million to pay for, funerals or injuries. And they haven't paid very much of it out.
Oh, they haven't.
No. And then there was a recent, I think they admitted officially something like 455 people died from the vaccine. Excuse me, like I'm old enough to remember back in the mid-'70s on 60 Minutes, when 60 Minutes actually still practiced journalism, Mike Wallace grilling one of the vaccine manufacturers for the swine flu vaccine and they pulled it off the shelf because 25 people died.
Yeah.
25 people died. They pulled it off the shelf. Excuse me, one country, 455 people died officially. We know it was much, much higher than that. There was a recent court case. Dan Hartman lost his son, Sean, who was 17 years old. He wanted to play hockey desperately. He was 17. And in order to play hockey, he had to get the shot. So he got the shot and he died 33 days later. And he took it to court, and the court on Ontario judge just ruled that Health Canada or whatever agency specifically was mentioned does not have I think they called it a duty of care, responsibility, duty of care. Excuse me, you coerce people into taking the vaccine. You coerce them. It's your job, or you take the shot. And then when they die, you basically said, oh, not my problem? No, doesn't work that way as far as I'm concerned.
Actually, before we get to the call, I have a question from the chat, AH, and I'm going to read your super chats. Don't worry, everybody. But AH says, what's in it for the Canadian leaders to sell out to China? Money?
What? Yeah, I mean, that's there's deep connections with Brookfield Asset Management and the Chinese. There are a lot of Canadian companies. There was Paul Desmarais, Jean Chrétien's son-in-law, I think. One of his companies had deep connections with communist China. I mean, we do a lot of trade with China, a lot of business. There's also a lot of money laundering going on in this country. We are a hub of drug and money laundering.
Yeah, big time.
That's I mentioned a conspiracy. That's a dirty secret. I understand what Donald Trump is saying. It's not a lot of fentanyl that's pouring across the border. I think they said they apprehended maybe, 40 kilograms. Excuse me, that's enough to kill like 9 million people.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's how much they apprehended. It's probably more.
Oh,
it's not just about the.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, to a fentanyl user, which we have probably more than one that watches the show, but I am speaking of one specifically, Chris. But, they always say that. They're like, oh, that's enough. But they're like, yeah, it only killed, not to poo-poo this or anything, but they always go, that's enough to kill X amount of people. You go, but fentanyl users, they're like, they can take this shit all day. Like it doesn't kill them. But obviously it is a serious issue. But the fentanyl thing was just a pretext so he could slap on tariffs.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but also it's not about necessarily fentanyl or illegal aliens crossing the border. I do think, though, it is about having Canada is severely compromised. He doesn't want a satellite communist China on his northern border, and I don't blame him. We are serious. We have a serious communist China problem in this country.
Yeah, and people don't realize it. Do you think there's a chance of Alberta secession?
I do, actually. My understanding is all it would take would be a referendum vote, a majority of Albertans. They wouldn't need approval from the other, 9 provinces and so forth. If they got 50 plus 1, that would give them permission basically to negotiate either a better deal within Confederation or an exit. Now, I'm not a constitutional expert, but that's my understanding based on what I've read. Alberta could go. And I think right now, sentiment is around 35 to 40%. 35 to 40%.
Are we back? Sorry, I got a little YouTube notification. Okay. The stream didn't end, did it? No, it seems like we're good. Okay, sorry about that.
Was it something I said?
No, my YouTube page just crashed. But it doesn't seem like the stream ended, so I think we're good. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, I think the sentiment to separate is around something like 35, 40%. There's a group in Alberta called the Prosperity Project, and they're sending a delegation down to Washington, D.C. I just had Jeffrey Rath. He's heading it up. He's a lawyer.
The guy with the cowboy hat?
Yeah, they're connected with some Obama administration officials, and they want to see if there's interest in Alberta becoming a 51st state or separating. And they certainly have the natural resources and so forth to do it. I think they would probably take Saskatchewan with them if they went. I mean, they'd have everything they need. I think Alberta, Saskatchewan. If they could somehow take a little bit of northern British Columbia so that they could have access to tidewater, so they're not landlocked.
Yeah,
they'd be in pretty good shape.
I mean, I think that would just be the end of it for Canada at that point. If you just lost those two provinces, that would only be a matter of time for the rest of the country. All right, let's take a call here. We got, one moment, please. And the phone lines are open, 1-888-949-2969. 1 moment, please. Yeah, I don't know what that deal is with YouTube, but it seems like we're good. I'm getting some sort of notification, but for now it seems good. Hello, you're on Low Value Mail. Who am I speaking with?
Hey, Danny, it's Shapes. Hi, Richard. Nice to meet you.
Hey, nice to meet you. Thanks for calling.
I don't really have a huge topic or like a throw in here, but I just have like a little update, a little conspiracy update. And I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of the show. I'm sorry if you guys covered it in the beginning, but I believe it was yesterday that Virginia Giuffre,
I talked about this briefly at the beginning of the show.
Did you cover it at the beginning of the show?
She got hit by a school bus going 70 miles an hour. A school bus.
That's right.
When have you ever known a school bus to go 70 miles an hour?
Well, to be fair, it sure is something. And I saw that post she did on her Instagram in the morning, and I read the Daily Mail article, and the people were just in the comment section just being brutal to this poor lady.
Why would the people be brutal to her? What did she do?
It was just like they were really coming on her for like saying, well, if you only got 4 days to live and you make this big Instagram post that's like a paragraph long, and then people started piling in on her, and she just can't catch a break. This woman, her whole life, she just can't catch a break.
Yeah. I mean, the 4 days thing, I did find a little suspicious, to be honest. That is a very specific thing for a doctor to tell you have exactly 4 days to live. I don't feel like they would do that. That's the one thing where I go, something about this smells a little fishy, the 4 days part, because I go, that is such a weird thing to say. Like normally you just be like, I don't have long to live, but to say 4 days. But other than that, I mean, it is weird. But again, she signed, like, she had some settlement with Prince Andrew and the royal family, and I'm pretty sure signed away her right to, litigate this any further. So I don't know what really her angle is here, or why, from the conspiracy minded person, like why anybody would even try and kill her. Like she's kind of done what she's done.
Right. Well, and you don't get a whole lot of information on her either. And she seems to be estranged from her husband, estranged from her kids now.
Yeah. Richard?
While we're on the topic of Epstein, I don't know, again, for your American listeners, and we were talking earlier about our caretaker prime minister, I think it's important to refer to him as a caretaker. He has zero mandate. But his wife's family, his wife's sister, was friends with Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah, there is a photo of the current prime minister of Canada with Ghislaine Maxwell.
Right. And also, Carney was feted by Prince Andrew, I think in 2014, through a big gala party for Mark Carney. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall, find out what they were talking about. And Carney's sister-in-law, her name, and I believe, I could be wrong about this, but I believe his wife, Diana Fox Carney, their names are in Epstein's little black book.
Oh, you know what? It's too bad. My guest last week on the podcast was Nick Bryant, who he released Epstein's black book. He was the guy who literally released it. So I could have, had I known this, I should have asked him that. But I didn't know that Mark Carney was in Epstein's black book. So Mark Carney has been to Epstein's Island. I guess the black book was just people he might have met, because I know that guy from the All In podcast was in there. I don't think necessarily being in Epstein's black book was a smoking gun per se.
No, that's true. That's true. And I just to clarify, I don't know that Mark Carney's name was there, but I believe his wife and definitely his sister-in-law, his wife's sister, old school chums with Ghislaine Maxwell.
Interesting. Caller,
okay, that was it. I'm sorry that you touched on it early in the show and I missed it. I'm going to punch out now. Thank you, Danny.
No problem. Thanks,
Thank
man.
you, Richard.
Thank you.
All right, let's take another call. Phone lines are open, 1-888-949-2969. We're going to Christian right now. Christian, are you there? Christian, are you there? He picked up. I heard a clicking. Nope, nothing from Christian. Oh, no, he muted himself. That's what happened. Guys, it's not that hard. And then he hung up. All right. I'm going to take one more caller. Before I take another caller, because I know what this is going to be about. Why do you have any theories as to why the final boss of conspiracies is the Jews?
Why? Well, they are a successful people.
3 out of 4 NCAA basketball coaches in the Final Four.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that. But when you're chased from chased out of countries and your wealth needs to be portable, there's a cultural reason, for example, why Jews got into the diamond business, for example. That's why. You're constantly on the move because you're getting chased from out of Spain, or you're getting kicked out of England, and you got to take you got to be mobile.
They've been kicked out of a lot of places. We have.
You got to travel light. So there's that. Culturally too, there are other cultures who just really put an emphasis on education. Become a doctor, become a lawyer. That's not just a Jewish thing. That's for many cultures.
Sure.
Yeah. And you know what?
I just noticed as someone who hosts, because I'm Jewish and I host a conspiracy podcast, and it always just, it seems like in the hierarchy of conspiracies, it's the top of the pyramid a lot of times. It funnels up. Anyways, I'm just preparing you for this next caller.
All right. Are we going to have one of those? All right.
Most importantly, I just have to prepare people, because you actually work for a very Zoomer Media, very well-known Canadian Jew, very successful, started Much Music.
Yeah, Moses Znaimer.
Yeah, if you're a Canadian, you know Much Music. It's definitely not.
Well, you see, if there was a Jewish conspiracy, Moses Znaimer would not have allowed me on the air.
There you
probably.
go. There you go.
So,
yeah, that's a good point. All right. Let's take this call. One moment, please. Jared, are you there?
I am here, sir.
How are you
for
doing?
having me.
My pleasure.
I'm doing fantastic.
What's up, man?
Another beautiful day.
Excellent.
Hello,
I mean,
Richard.
don't you live in like Arizona or something? When is it not a beautiful day
Correct.
there?
It's that good time of year right now.
Oh,
In
yeah.
about a month or so, it's not going to be nice.
Yeah, I was there actually this time last year, and it was awesome. It was I'm a big. My top 2 states are actually Florida and Arizona.
For a good portion of the year, it's amazing, but then we get like 4 months where it could be 115.
Yeah, that sucks.
So it's
that's
not ideal.
That stinks. All right, you got a question for Richard?
So I wanted to talk about James Angleton, because in the post that Danny had put forth,
He's
it was said that he
the
was
Secret Service agent?
So James Angleton was the head of CIA's counterintelligence program, and was the person who was assigned the Israel account. And he held that position from 1951 for about 20 years. He was close friends with the first Prime Minister of Israel, Ben-Gurion, as well as a few other interesting individuals, which we'll get to shortly, because some people believe that the reason that JFK was taken out was because he was against Israel looking to acquire and build a nuclear bomb, and there's been correspondence between Ben-Gurion and JFK that is classified to this day, where the conversation started to get a little bit spicy. And
they did have a it is documented they had a bit of a contentious relationship. Yeah.
So from what we know about James Angleton, he was a mover and shaker in the Gladio program. Are you familiar with Gladio?
Yeah. He was a rabid anti-communist, and the idea that after the Second World War, I guess it would have been the OSS at that time, if I have this correct, and you jump in if I'm getting it wrong, but they basically supplied arms or even organized what we probably call terrorist organizations or terror cells inside Europe.
Yeah, terror cells,
100%. To go after left-leaning governments and politicians and so forth. And, probably pretty active all the way up into the Baader-Meinhof gang. I believe was that not part of rumored to be part of Gladio? That might have been a left-leaning terrorist organization. Maybe I have that wrong, but anyway, that's my understanding of what Gladio was. So anyway, your point about Angleton and his pro-Israel stance, I guess putting that.
The idea was that he, based on his experiences in Gladio, it came to Ben-Gurion and other individuals' attention that he was adept at running and operating these type of clandestine operations under the radar, and that he had quite a bit of expertise in this, and he was one of the people that kind of helped set up the foundations of what became Mossad. And there's some details to that. So just to get in briefly into Angleton and Mossad, when Angleton became chief of counterintelligence in 1954, he had already been in Israel for 3 years, handling their account in Tel Aviv. The desk was created for him after Ben-Gurion visited the United States in May of 1951. The purpose allegedly was to raise $1 billion for Israeli bonds, but it was also to establish collaboration between the U.S. and Israel's blossoming intelligence agencies, because at the time Mossad had yet been to be created. It was in its infancy. It was under another name. So there's a gentleman by the name of Reuben Shiloh, the founder of Israel's first intelligence organization. He visited Washington in April 1951, and he was very impressed by what he saw. And he said, we got to do something similar. And then, so Angleton became a very respected person in Israel. And it was to the point where he's, if you know, he has like a little corner and a plaque in Israel that's dedicated to him.
In where is that? Like at the Mossad, like at the Mossad headquarters?
No, it's like in so the Jim Angleton corner is a small observation point overlooking the old city near Confederation House in Yemen Moshe. And the quarter was
Your Hebrew is really good, Jared.
So, yeah, I'm reading, and but the idea is.
Yeah, I actually have been wondering that. Have you been trying to learn Hebrew?
Well, I've actually thought about it just so I can read the Talmud.
That is the funniest thing I've ever heard of.
Oh, I actually have a fun fact. Just a quick little non sequitur. 66% of Israeli Jews are allergic to olive trees.
I heard that. I don't believe that. I don't believe
that. I think it's a meme. I don't know. Well,
yeah, I don't think that's true.
No, well, there was a study done in 1994, 96. I looked it up.
Like to the trees specifically, or to olives?
To the olive pollen.
Every Jew's. I can speak for all Jews here. We're all allergic to all pollen. If you told me it's just pollen, I'm like, that seems low. Actually,
it's specifically this particular olive tree. I just thought that was funny.
Oh, okay.
And it kind of leads to the fact that maybe
pollen is Jew kryptonite. I'm telling you, I can confirm that.
There is something to that. You're onto them. But the idea was to talk about Angleton and his helping of Israel acquire uranium and what became their creation of their nuclear bomb through that Dimona
Jared,
that they had.
when was the first time Israel recognized or admitted that they had a nuclear program? Because I know they denied it for a long time.
I think it was 70 something.
And so is the contention with the Israel, and here's the thing, I'm not a pro government guy regardless of what government, so I don't care about someone's like, oh, Israel was, because I know that some people are like, oh, I don't care that maybe Israel was involved. I mean, if we think the CIA was involved, then it's not crazy to be like other governments were potentially involved. But would Israel's involvement, are you essentially implying with killing JFK, assuming it, is the case, is just because he didn't want them to have nuclear weapons, so they're like, we're just going to get this inconvenient guy out of the way?
It was a combination of things, because he had angered the military-industrial complex with his comments about the never-ending wars and his plans to dismantle the CIA into 1,000 pieces and blow them into the wind, or whatever that exact quote is. Mm-hmm. There was the idea of restoring the dollar to being backed by silver again, and he had discussed abolishing the Federal Reserve. So it was like a bit of a.
I don't think he ever did. There's a little that Executive Order 263. I think it was. It was basically giving the Treasury permission to print silver certificates. It really had nothing to do with trying to undermine the Federal Reserve. And I've talked to a number of JFK assassination researchers like Jim DiEugenio, and they. I don't know, but they dismiss that, just as they do, the oil depletion allowance. He wanted to cancel. Basically, it was a tax cut for the oil companies. I mean, it was a turkey shoot in Dealey Plaza. I used to joke the only person who didn't have a gun that day was Lady Bird Johnson. There were a lot of people lined up. Jack Kennedy was a divisive character at that time. A lot of people wanted him dead. Did the oil barons want him dead? Well, maybe they had an excuse, the oil depletion allowance. That was a big deal for them. Did Israel want the bomb and he didn't want them to have a bomb? Yes, but Israel he wasn't making a special case out of Israel. Kennedy's policy was he was for non-proliferation. He didn't want Egypt to have a bomb, because if Israel got the bomb, the concern was that Egypt then would go to the Soviet Union and say, can we have your help? And that was going to escalate the Cold War. Now, I understand, Ben-Gurion and Jack didn't get along, but there's a long list of people, like I say, that wanted Kennedy dead. Was Mossad one of them? Maybe they had a gripe. Did they do it? I don't know. I don't think the smoking gun is in those 80,000 documents.
Yeah. And again, it is clear that there was some sort of United States government assistance to this. Like the fact that the Secret Service agents at the last minute Like their detail was basically like several of them were told to essentially step down. And like, I know the one Secret Service agent talks about how like normally they would have had 2 guys on the back and they were told like last minute, like, you don't need to do that. They removed the bubble. They changed the route, like all this stuff. You're like, there's too many coincidences. There's just too many mistakes where you go, these are just accidents, right? Like there had to have been some coordination between the United States federal government. The question is the United States federal government and who? All right. I think that's probably safe to say. All right, Jared, I got a bunch of other callers. I got to let you go, man. But thank you for calling in, Jared. We can finish this discussion at another time. Good talking to you, man. Jared, everybody.
Always a pleasure.
Take care. Okay, we got Logan, the very same Logan that we all know and love. Logan, are you there?
Okay, hello, I'm here.
What's up, man? The rare Logan call.
It's hard to follow. Oh, rare Logan call? Oh, is it rare? I guess this is call number 3.
Yeah, I mean, we've done between this and the bathhouse, we're at like 250 shows.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I usually don't have things to say, and admittedly, I cannot follow Jared. He is well read. But I was gifted a really good question for our guest today.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, so what is your opinion about the theory that perhaps during the Ming Dynasty, the Chinese traveled through a thinner ice sheet in the north and colonized or perhaps inhabited parts of Canada?
I hadn't heard that.
Interesting. I've never heard that.
It's
the idea, like the amount of Chinese that are in the area, not to be all. Well, I guess we're already hating on Jews all the time. So the amount of Chinese in the area, the fact that they helped to build the railroad system, but there's not a lot of documentation of them coming over as if they had already been there. And perhaps pre-Columbian, they had an expedition and just sort of popped up colonies throughout the North America.
I've seen a lot of, like, if you go to like the art gallery of Ontario, like, you know, you'll see a lot of like early Canadian paintings, and there's natives and there's whites, but I've never seen any Chinese people. I mean, Richard might be able to speak to this a little better than
it is amazing. You go like way up north, you know, in Ontario, like almost north of the tree line, and you will find a Chinese restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever
That's
you go.
Literally every town in Ontario has one Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
It is crazy.
I hadn't heard. It wouldn't surprise me, though. Listen, there's an old joke. Not only was Columbus not first, he might have been last. I mean, there's, you know, a lot of interesting evidence to suggest the Phoenicians were over here and that they were conducting a mining operation on the was it the south shores of Lake Superior. They like huge copper mine. There was a huge copper mine going on there during the Bronze Age, because and how did they get that
to the depth? Sorry to talk over you. Sorry.
Sorry, could that lead to the which?
What was that question?
The depth of some of the Great Lakes, perhaps large mining operations. But I was talking over you. I do apologize for that.
No, that's okay. No, I don't mean in the lake. I mean on the shores of Lake Superior. Okay. And like there's not enough copper that existed in Europe to account for the Bronze Age that happened over there. Where did they get the copper? Well, they have this huge copper mining operation on Lake Superior, and how did they get that copper over there? They'd have to have these huge vessels. We're talking about during the Bronze Age. Let me just, when was that? When was the actual Bronze Age took place when?
It had to be 4,000 years ago, roughly.
Yeah, 3,300 BC is roughly it began, 3,300 BC. So we're talking, you're right, almost 5,000 years ago. A copper mining operation, large scale, 5,000 years ago. Some speculate the Phoenicians were involved. They found artifacts in the Grand Canyon. Didn't they find some Egyptian artifacts or something? None of that would surprise me. So did the Ming Dynasty travel to explore the Arctic? Hey, your guess is as good as mine.
Certainly. I mean, if you go very Northwest Territories, the Inuit people, they do look Asian-ish.
Mm-hmm. I get what you're saying.
way more tanned. I know some people say that that's environmental because it's so like it's light all the time and snowy. So you're like, that's more of like an adaptation, I believe is what the explanation is. But they do kind of look Asian.
Well, there was a land bridge, right? At some point between Siberia and North America. So at some point, they crossed over. I know that's not politically correct. We're supposed to say that they were here, since the beginning. I don't think that's true. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer of a more advanced than we assume ancient civilization that was capable of large, at the very least, construction operations, if not even harnessing I'm getting a little weird now, but I feel like they had a way to harness the natural energy in the atmosphere, like just the molecules rubbing together, all that static. They had a way to catch it and use it somehow.
Possibly. I mean, the scary thing is that if we think that, it's, I guess it goes back to the whole mud flood stuff. But if we think that, there was all this technology and you could have somewhat of an advanced society and it can just go away in 100 years or 200 years. It could just fully reset and just everything's gone.
The sea people, man. They ruined everything. The damn sea people. And Egypt won and didn't even write down good documentation about it.
Or maybe they did have good documentation. I mean, again, so I can't remember who said it on this show, but if we just lost all the power, and you're like, how long until every hard drive would just degrade and just kind of?
Are you implying, Danny,
turn
that
to
they
dust?
have digital media?
I don't know. But I mean, if we just had no power all of a sudden, it's like I can't access. I don't have anything in physical documents anymore. Everything's on my computer or in the cloud. If that just went away,
it would make sense.
It's like, 100, 200 years before everything's just gone?
Well, you leave your home, you come home, 2 weeks, you haven't trimmed your hedges, and you can just see how nature takes over, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long. It doesn't take long before the place is overgrown.
Yeah, exactly. So who knows? Do you have any thoughts on Tartaria, Richard? Have you ever looked into that?
No, I mean, I think I've done one show on Tartaria. I don't know a lot about it. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, it's intriguing, this idea of a unified advanced empire.
Yeah, we did an episode on it. We'll have Andreas. We have this guy, Andreas Exertus. He seems to know everything about it. But, I was wondering if you did. All right, Logan, I got to let you go, man. We got to get to some more calls here.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you for taking my call.
Logan, everybody. The one from the chat.
Goodbye, everyone.
Later, man. That was Logan, everyone. Okay, let's take another call here. Oh, we got Christian back. I think he figured out whatever was going on. Let's see if we can get him. Christian, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Howdy.
You're on Low Value Mail.
Right on. Shout out to your producer for letting me back in. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. He's a good man. Shout out, Mark.
Also, Danny, keep up the AI videos. I think that's really important. So
thank you.
It
is important to sow disinformation for comedy purposes. I agree.
It's important to express yourself.
It's important to confuse every boomer on Facebook with fake news.
I think that's a great thing. I think you're making the world a better place.
I agree.
Richard, this is my first exposure to you, so shout out. I think you're great.
Are you vaccinated?
I did have a question. No. Wait.
All right.
It's my real name in the chat, so I got to be careful. And shout out to the last guy getting it off Israel.
Yeah.
So, I'm not brave enough, but I do have a question for Richard. Richard, do you think we can ever win you guys over, to actually become part of the United States? I know it's kind of beating a dead horse, but I think you guys are just looking at it the wrong way.
I mean, I'll say this: if it wasn't Trump proposing it, I don't think the appetite's super high. But the problem is that it's Trump. Because I think some people in Canada would be like, that's not the worst idea. But the moment Trump says it, everybody's just like, no fucking way. No way.
Well,
you're right. If Barack Obama floated the idea.
If Barack Obama was like, yo, how do you guys feel about this? People would be like, oh my God, we love that idea.
Exactly. They've done sort of thought experiments like that where they do these streeters and they tell people, what do you think of Barack Obama's idea to do this? Oh, I love it. Meanwhile, they were all Trump's ideas.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah. So,
actually, younger people in terms of polling would readily give up their maple leafs for U.S. dollars. I think I can't quote the actual numbers, but it's quite high among younger people. let's say, like 18 to 34.
Yeah.
But in many ways, we already are the 51st state. I mean, our economies are so integrated and intertwined. That's why, like, getting into these tariff wars is really silly. It's like fighting yourself. You're gonna, or getting into a fight, you're gonna end up punching yourself in the face. Like auto parts, for example. One auto part made in Canada might travel to the United States. They add certain components. Then it goes to Mexico. They add some more. Then it comes back to the United States. They add some more. It may cross the border like 7 times before the actual, it's placed in a finished automobile.
Yeah.
You're going to tariff it every time it crosses the border? It makes no sense. It's not going to happen.
I mean, it makes sense if you think Trump is, which I've been saying since December. It's like if he actually does want Canada and his goal is just inflict maximum economic pain on Canada until they capitulate, then it does make sense. It makes sense in that framework where you go, yeah, if he is just trying to destroy the Canadian economy, it's like America can take the pain way longer than Canada can.
That's true.
I hope it really doesn't come to that. Yeah.
I don't think that's what he has in mind. I think he's trying to create a little bit of instability in the stock market, and I think he'd like to soften the stock market a little bit. And nothing, creates instability like tariffs are going on tomorrow. No, I'm going to move it to next month, and then changing his mind. So you have a lot of money coming out of the stock market, getting into treasuries and bonds and so forth, and that's going to cause interest rates to come down. It's like 8% of Americans could have like 94% of the stock market.
Yeah,
8%. So you're gonna take from that 8% temporarily, and you're gonna give a little bit of a break to the middle class because mortgage rates are going to come down. The other thing with tariffs, you're forcing farmers to sell more of their products in the United States. So you've got more products. That means lower grocery prices. Eggs are already starting to come down. So there is a little bit of a method to his madness with these tariffs. It's not about punishing Canada, really. It's more of a domestic agenda he has in mind.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think if we can get away from the emotion of it all, like it's not from a place of superiority. Like you become a state, you become an equal. Also, like with your population, you become the most represented state. You'd have the most members of the House. You get 2 senators.
Well, they wouldn't be one state. That makes zero sense. Like Canada can never be. It's too spread out to be one state.
California.
Yeah, well, population, it's the size of California, but the landmass is bigger than all of the United States. So for it to be one state makes no sense. But it could be, I guess, multiple states. I don't know.
Why would I want to pay 40%?
All the Cowboys.
Yeah. Why would I want to pay 40% fewer taxes? Why would I want my house to buy a house to be, half as much?
Right.
I can't think of a single reason why I would want to become part of the United States.
Well, that's the problem.
I can think of 10 reasons.
Well, that's another problem too, is that probably a lot of people secretly are like, yeah, this is a great idea, but then you can't publicly say it. Then, like, I was actually thinking about this. I see all the time people post on Twitter. They're like, look at this Canadian grocery store, all the American produce, nobody's buying it. And you're like, yeah, because you probably get dirty looks now for buying it, and it's even tenfold if you are openly like, I'd love to be part of the United States.
Enough credit. Like, one of my mentors growing up was Canadian, very proud Canadians. Her husband actually fought in the Second World War. But what you would have to gain, you get your guns, get your speech back. You get all those civil liberties.
I mean, that's another thing. Is like people are like, oh, well, there's this U of T professor, University of Toronto, who's like an expert on like insurgencies and talking about people fighting. You're like, with what? There's nobody has guns, and like nobody's even if they could get their hands on guns, they're not trained in any way to fight the U.S. military. Like, it's not going to happen.
No, I would prefer to be an independent sovereign nation simply because I believe that if we think our government in Ottawa is sort of distant and unresponsive, I can't imagine how much worse it'll be if, the capital is all the way down in Washington.
I mean, Washington is almost as far as Ottawa from where you are.
It's about 4-hour drive from where I am.
Yeah, and maybe 8 hours?
It might be a little bit longer.
Probably dry or flight.
Diego, so
flight is probably not way different.
Yep. But I'm all for what I call Fortress North America. I mean, Canada and the United States together, we will be energy dominant more than Saudi Arabia, more uranium than the rest of the world. We have all the energy we need. Let's get together, consolidate, intensify our trade, intensify security. We don't need the rest of the world.
Yeah.
We don't need anybody.
That's a cool
Canada and the United States together. That's all we need. And I'm all for that. But separate, independent, sovereign, but close. I mean, you're our cousins.
I mean, it's crazy that this hasn't even happened yet. It's crazy to think that this was...
No one down here seems to be mad about it, man. Like, I don't know. From what I hear, I guess if they're like attacking your sovereignty.
Yeah. I mean, Canadians are mad. Canadians are mad. Americans don't think about Canadians.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you guys just become equals, keep your state, and also keep your currency. I think that'd be set a good precedent for us. Your states here.
I mean, the currency's
it'd be
in
nice
the fucking
if
dumps.
States could have their own. Yeah,
I don't know if long term we can keep our currency. I agree, Danny.
It's gonna be Chinese yuan probably. All right, Christian, I gotta let you go, man. I gotta take some more calls, but thank you for calling in. Appreciate it. Good question.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. You know what? Let's take a little lighthearted call here. We have Dawn on the phone. This should be interesting. Let's see what we got here. Dawn, are you there?
Hello.
Hey.
I'm here. How are you? How's
Good.
everybody?
Hey, Dawn.
That's great.
Hey, Dawn.
That's great. I was just calling in. I was, scrolling around, and I had to find something nice. I said, why not join Richard and Danny over here on this beautiful place? I love this place. Isn't it nice? Isn't it nice? I think it's nice. I think it's really nice. Low value mail. Isn't it nice? Great.
Yeah. What's up, Dawn?
Nothing much, we're doing a lot. We've been very busy and getting things ready in Greenland, getting things ready in our 51st state. And I hear that you're talking about it. And I think it's very nice you're talking about it.
Dawn, I got a question.
51st state.
Yeah, what's
rather
your
fast?
How much do you charge for a birthday party?
How much do I charge for a birthday? What do you mean by that?
Just, to show up.
To show up. Oh. I mean, we got a lot of things to do. I don't know if I would have to, I would have to make some calls. That's a lot of people. You got agents out the ass. It's so bad.
All right. Don, I got to let you go.
It would be
pretty good, though. Pretty good, Don. Thanks, man.
I'll give that a 7 out of 10.
Not bad. Yeah, that was not bad. The voice wasn't quite right, but the cadence was pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the cadence was pretty good. If we could, if there's one tariff I would like to see put on, it would be on Donald Trump impersonators. we need to tariff the shit out of them. There's way too many of them. Tariff them a fucking high hell. All right, we got Joe the lawyer. Thank you again, Richard, for coming on. I appreciate this.
Hey, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Joe the lawyer, how you doing?
Doing well. How you doing, Danny?
Very good. What's up, Joe?
So if Trump can pull off somehow getting to Canada or even one of the provinces, I think then he has a chance of, getting another term.
I mean,
here's the thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, he's talking about taking Greenland by force, by the way, which that is... I mean, this is, it's talked about a bit, but that is, in my opinion, the craziest thing.
Wouldn't be the first time we've done it.
Sure, but he's like, they were trying to annex Afghanistan.
No. I mean, Greenland. We took it during World War II.
Oh, I didn't realize that. It was the Americans actually. I know there's a bunch of bases there.
I think Teddy Roosevelt first proposed it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why we have bases there.
We do. We have. You do. You have one base. You have one base there. Yeah.
Yeah. They were taken over by the Nazis, and like, hey, you don't have anyone controlling you now, so now we own you. And then we gave it back stupidly after the war.
Yeah. Well, they shouldn't have given it back. That was a mistake.
No, I agree. We made a lot of mistakes. Shouldn't have given back Cuba either.
Yeah. Cuba makes a lot.
You know,
I think
we are.
Cuba makes a. I don't know why he doesn't go for Cuba. I mean, every Cuban, like when you talk about all these Greenland, everybody's like, we don't want to be American. Canada's like, we don't want to be American. Probably every Cuban would want to be American. You would have like the most patriotic, conservative Americans. Every one of them would vote Republican all day long. That seems like the most sensible.
And that'll be the third term.
Yeah. Well, you're a lawyer, Joe. Joe, you're a lawyer. What do you see any pathway to a third term? Is there some sort of chicanery? I know some people have said that maybe they could do a kind of a similar to a Putin. What was it, Medvedev?
No, the only way it would be possible is if we have, but if we do very, very well in the midterms.
So well that
like
how many
exceptionally
states are required to ratify the Constitution? Constitutional
2/3.
amendment? 2/3.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It's 3/4 of the states, but it's 2/3 of in both the House and the Senate. You were talking about repealing the 22nd Amendment, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is there now? That's to me seems short-sighted
I don't
because
think if it does happen, if he's not going to be going up against
Obama?
then it'll be against Barack Obama, but it's not going to happen because he's going to be deported back to Kenya.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, is there not a long-term strategy here though, where you think, well, then we open this up, or would he repeal it and then unrepeal it, like pass the amendment?
Look, a Democrat
right?
already had 3.5 terms.
That was what
they had their shot. We should have ours.
Yes, in the 20s or something, 30s.
Roosevelt, yeah.
Roosevelt, right?
World War II.
Yeah, or World War II.
He served four terms. Yeah,
4 terms.
Not all of it.
Yeah, it was like one partial one. Interesting. Yeah, I wonder what the odds are on the betting markets for Donald Trump getting a third term. I guess that's kind of a...
Technically, someone is allowed to be president, like the way the current rule stands, for just under 10 years.
Yeah. It's under 10 years? What's the wording? I was reading the 22nd Amendment earlier today, actually.
So if someone becomes president because the previous president died, over halfway through their term, then they can still run again twice.
Right. But what would be the loophole here for Trump to take advantage of that?
I don't know, maybe there could be some sort of a way how he can say that, to automatically be stepping down,
No, I actually I searched that, and it says elected twice, because I actually asked Grok that exact question, and it said no, because the 22nd Amendment specifically says elected twice, so he could not step down like 1 day short of 2 years from this term and then get reelected.
Right. Nor could you if you were.
What I think he should do anyway is, I think that going for another term is a mistake. That's not what the real power is.
No.
What he should do is nominate himself towards the end of his presidency as a Supreme Court judge.
Ooh, that's a move right there. That's an interesting. Could he be vice president? Could he be vice president to J.D. Vance's president?
If he can't be president, he can't be vice president.
Gotcha.
No. How about Speaker of the House? Because if he's Supreme Court, he has to be ratified, right? And that's
right. Yeah. Well, he could be Speaker of the House.
And then he's third in line in an unfortunate plane crash, and you're president again.
And he avoids being elected 2 times, so he still gets to do it. So that could be a way around it.
Interesting. Yeah, well, I would say that's probably not a great path for America if that happens. The worst part about it will be all the I told you so's from all the fucking crazy liberal people who are just like, see, told you he was going to be president for the rest of his life.
I think he's just trying to screw with people, and hey, people are talking about that, they're not talking about other things.
That's true. Like I said at the beginning, it's like he just says shit, the Gaza stuff, where he goes, we're just going to do Gaza, and then never hear about it again.
Speaking of which,
yes.
So Israel actually, they were the first country that America had a free trade agreement with.
Yeah. I was trying to get to the
So
bottom of it. It seems like they have no tariffs on each other whatsoever.
There are a few like quote unquote tariffs on stuff that we don't actually trade. So it's like basically we have no tariffs.
Yeah. So they have like totally pure free trade.
Right, but I mean, the thing is, what Trump said he's doing is reciprocal tariffs that wouldn't apply here because with Israel because they don't have any tariffs on any American goods. So
gotcha. Yeah, exactly. There's no tariffs. Interesting. All right, Joe. Anything else?
Yeah, nothing else.
Joe, are we going to do an Ask a Jew segment at some point where you're going to join me and people can call in and just pepper you with questions?
I think that would be a great idea.
Okay, let's arrange it.
I mean, I know I'm going to get like a ton of like anti-Semitic, but
sure. But you know what? You seem to generally have the best rebuttals to a lot of this stuff because you seem more in, you have a lot of the answers to all this stuff. So might be a good episode. I think people will like it. Well, I'll talk to you. We'll figure it out at some point.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, Joe the lawyer, everybody.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, let's take one more call, and then I'll let you go, and then we're going to do an extra 30 minutes of open lines. Let's take this one. And if we didn't get to you, hang on the line. We will get to you because we're going to be going extra time. This caller's name is Molten Salt. And Mark just said in the chat, is molten salt a Holocaust reference? I've never heard of molten salt. No idea, but he's not picking up, so...
Hello?
Oh, there he is. There's Molten Salt. Molten Salt, are you there?
Yeah.
What's up, man?
Hello. It's nice to talk to you, Danny and Richard. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
So, I don't know much about the news. I prefer to get my news from low-value mail.
That's not good.
From what I've heard today.
Yep, go ahead.
I really don't like the idea of Trump going in a third time.
It probably sets a bad precedent.
Honestly, anonymously, between you and me, I voted for him twice.
Yep.
And this really, really hurts. Like, ooh.
Wait, so did you vote for Biden the one time?
No. No way.
Oh, okay. Well,
so I did vote for him 3 times. Thank you
3
for
times.
correcting me.
Gotcha. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it would be totally detrimental to everything the people wanted and what this country was set up to be, which agreed happened a long time ago, but man, this is an extra level of crazy. I thought it was a bit to begin with. I thought the whole thing was a bit. Greenland, third term, I thought it was just a crazy bit.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the Greenland thing is not a bit. I mean, the thing is, everybody said Canada was a bit too, and I don't think that is not just a goof he's having. So,
I don't think he's specifically called for a military invasion of Greenland.
He absolutely has said that boots on the ground if necessary. He has absolutely said that, and J.D. Vance has said that as well, which is crazy because he's never actually specifically said he wants to annex Canada. He just said, economically, he would, economic pressure to take over Canada. But he has specifically said, like,
he said, I think he said, I never take military force off the table. But I think
that's in any other scenario, if any other country said that to another country, you'd be like, yeah, that's fighting words.
Well, I suppose if you're talking about if it comes down to the United States taking control of Greenland or China or Russia, then you can take military action off the table.
But has China or Russia had any specific designs on Greenland? Like,
they have specific designs on the Arctic in general.
On the Arctic, I understand that.
And a huge chunk of Greenland, is in the Arctic. And this is the problem with Canada. I mean, to me, Canada is like, I don't know if you guys are fans of Yellowstone, but you got like a 1 million acre ranch and it's great. But if you can keep it, because everybody wants it.
Yeah.
And we're not in a position to defend it. And Donald Trump isn't going to sit idly by and watch China or Russia, take over the Arctic. It's just, that's
sure. And I mean, I think anybody who's not Chinese or
very limited access to the Arctic as it is.
Yeah. And I think anybody who's not Chinese or Russian If you had to choose, you would be like, yeah, I'd rather America have it than China or Russia. I mean, that's a probably almost near consensus.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So,
I mean, we're living in a this a multipolar world right now, and we're seeing the rise of these civilizational states. The world is changing rapidly, and the idea of an independent Greenland trying to defend itself, or Denmark maybe helping out a little bit.
But I mean, it would be a NATO thing, would it not? Like would an attack on Greenland not necessarily be an attack on all NATO countries?
It might be, but in 10 years, who's to say what NATO is going to look like?
Right.
Europe is, they're claiming that they're going to rearm themselves, but they're also at the same time de-industrializing. So I don't know how that works. How you can re-militarize while you're de-industrializing right now. I mean, Europe's a basket case. I don't know what NATO is going to look like in 10 years. And where does that leave Greenland? No pun intended, but out in the cold. Are they going to defend themselves against Russia or China?
No. I mean, it's 50,000 people.
These are just the practicalities, and it sounds rough. It sounds rough and it sounds mean, but this is the new world we're heading into.
Yeah. Thoughts, caller?
I wonder what value Greenland offers besides placement in the world map,
I mean, if you're playing a game of Risk, it's all you want is you just want that. Yeah, I mean, they have resources. I know they have some
tremendous minerals.
Yeah, they have lots of minerals and natural resources, and I mean, that's the thing is I've said this about Canada and same with Greenland. He hasn't actually made anybody an offer yet, right? Like, imagine with Canada if he offered $100,000 a person to become part of the United States. Like, that's $4 trillion to literally pay off every Canadian citizen. It's not really that much money in the grand scheme of things. Like, that's, like if they could do that easily, that's just buying Apple. Like they could do that. And just
they could.
And own Canada. And Greenland is only 50,000 people. You could give them, I don't know, $500,000 each. No problem. Be a drop in the bucket. It'd be a month's interest expense or less. Anyways, I gotta let you go, man. But thank you for calling in.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
It was good talking to you. Bye.
All right. Thank you very much, Richard, for joining me today. That has been a really, really fun time. Where can people find you?
You can find me, my podcast. I have two podcasts. The Richard Syrett Show is available everywhere, and Richard Syrett's Strange Planet, which is kind of more of the world of UFOs and conspiracies and the paranormal. Strange Planet. That's Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. That's available everywhere. The website is strangeplanet.ca and the richardsyrettshow.com.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for joining me. I appreciate it very much. And everybody go check out Richard's stuff. And thank you again. Yeah, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. Richard Syrett, everybody. That has been Richard Syrett. And we're going into low value mail. Overtime. I hope you guys enjoyed what we've done so far. We got an extra half an hour coming on here. We're going to take some calls. I'm going to read some super chats. I didn't have a good spot to read them in. Let me remove this little. There we go. Let me read your super chats. Randy Fitzsimmons. We're going to go through them all right now. We're going to bang them off. From the top. This is, I already read the rape ones. That's funny. You're not allowed to say rape on YouTube. I'm allowed to say rapeseed, which is a big crop in Canada. Rapeseed. Vincent says, Danny, don't forget to give my subs. Vince, actually, courtesy of Vince, we have 2 new members of the Patreon. Courtesy of Vince, 2 6-month memberships, because Vince won them in the little raffle, and I did give them away to free members of the Patreon. I gave them a little upgrade. For them. Randy Fitzsimmons says, no war with Russia. Fair enough. Randy also says, right, Canada can be a territory like PR. Also, Trump would still have won 2024 if Canada were a state apportioned electoral votes. I honestly, everybody says that. They go like, Canada. It is skewed more Democrat than liberal, but not really enough to sway an election. Like, it's still at the end of the day, probably 60-40. Randy also says, fact, Canada is not a real country. Wrong, Randy. Canada is a real country for now. Randy also says, it was over 60 years ago, folks. I don't care. Kay says, never mind that. So how about the Holocaust? I don't know what that's in reference to. Randy then again says, doubling down. 100% Canada is not a real country. Well, then if Canada is not a real country, where the hell is my passport from? Randy again says, Canada is not a real country. It is an experimental prison colony of the WEF for bugmen. We will liberate you, but then you work for us. I mean, as king of the bugmen, doesn't sound that bad. Nick Mullen says, whatever RFK did to that bear carcass, he doesn't want the pictures coming out. I mean, he's probably got a lot of pictures with carcasses. Schneider says, you guys are really coming through on the super chats. Good job. Shout out to all of you. Shout out to Randy. Randy doing some heavy lifting. Logan Sorter says, I'm so late. Hit that super chat goal. I need extra shoe. I assume he means show. Bobo McHua says, go on Tower Gang, Danny. I had all the Tower Gang guys on the show. I'll go on Tower Gang. I think we were supposed to make it happen. I don't know whatever happened with that. Cosmic Cowboy says, high value guest, good ep Jew on brother Israel flag. Randy then says, no, the Norse were first. Columbus was second. I believe that's in regards to Canada. Randy then says, Phoenicians were a Semitic people and sacrificed babies to Moloch. My kind of people. Randy then also says, are you implying they had digital media? And if so, who controlled it? I mean, I don't know if the Jews were controlling media pre-mud flood, but it's probably a good guess. Yep says, what's a teal super chat? As he did a teal super chat. Randy then says, I think we could probably just forcibly occupy Canada, which isn't a real country. Anyways, there would be zero resistance. I don't like this anti-Canada behavior here, Randy. Obviously, America could easily occupy Canada should they want to. Dylan Farnham says, Clint Russell had a guy last week saying Ukraine is important, EU for equity in lending. This now explains why Trump wants Canada and Greenland so he can push the impending collapse down the road. Interesting. Logan Sorter says 20 out of 20. Benny the Jet says we did it. Randy says, guys, it wouldn't even be one state. It would be a territory. That does make the most sense for it to be a territory. More like a Puerto Rico situation. And then Canadians get to be Canadians. Like I said, who loves being Puerto Rican? Who loves being any nationality more than Puerto Ricans? You should see the Puerto Ricans walking around New York City. They literally wear Puerto Rican flag shirt, Puerto Rican flag pants, Puerto Rican flag hat while driving a car wrapped in a Puerto Rican flag. They love being Puerto Rican. Randy Fitzsimmons again says, what profession is Joe? He's a lawyer. Joe the lawyer. Vince says, Joe the lawyer and Jared together in studio, episode 150. Not going to be in studio because I imagine both of them would prefer to remain anonymous, but we'll do that episode with Joe the lawyer. Oh, hold on, let me. Oh, no, the phone lines are open. Phone lines are open for the after show, everybody. 1-888-949-2969. I'm going to get to the calls. And then Iron Man Metal Bill says rapeseed oil is canola, originally designed for machine lubricating, poisoned 96 out of 100 pigs in initial trial. Now they give it to us. I mean, it's big industry in Canada. The rapeseed industry is big industry, and China is tariffing the shit out of it. All right, let's go to a caller. Let's go to Slav. And call in, everybody. 1-888-949-2969. Slav, what's up, dude?
Hey, what's going on? So I just realized something about the olive tree.
Yes.
And then being allergic. What does the olive branch symbolize?
Peace.
Do I have to say anything else?
The Jews are allergic to peace. Interesting. I don't believe that study. I don't believe it specifically. If you told me that it was all pollen, I would be like, yeah, for sure. I mean, literally me and my Jew wife have just been sneezing nonstop for the last 3 days.
What if we get all of the Jews for a medical study and we put them like somewhere that can contain all the pollen? Then
are you on mushrooms, Slav? I've never heard Slav giggle like a little girl like this. He usually calls in being like, these organisms. I've never heard you giggle like that.
These edibles. I have too many edibles. Yeah, no, okay. I was thinking we get
this is, by the way, this is what happens when you make Slav wait on the line, is he just fucking pounds edibles. I love this. Go ahead, Slav.
Yeah, so what I was saying is, we got a medical study where it rounded up all these Jews
and
put them in like concentration chambers.
Sure.
And then just like pump them full of pollen to see if anything happens.
I mean, I think even I think even the strongest Gentile would succumb to that.
Yeah, maybe. So what I was actually calling about was, so the tariffs, everyone is complaining about it from like the economic standpoint of view.
Yeah.
And the people who live in those countries, when they're getting affected by it, they can complain because they see prices being impacted.
Yeah.
What if Trump starts to tell nations, especially those that consider themselves allies of America, that their nations need to have a Bill of Rights, just like America? Like, to me, the U.S. Constitution is a much superior document for outlining a government compared to any place on earth.
Agreed.
And I think Trump should just go out in front of the world and be like, if you want to be an ally of America, you need to have the closest iteration of the Bill of Rights. Because remember, Vance went over to Germany, and he's like, you guys can't be arresting your own people for tweets.
Sure.
You know?
For like memes.
And I think there are people in these foreign countries, once they hear that, they'll be like, hey, we like those kind of freedoms too. Imagine if the indigenous people of England, the indigenous people of Germany, I mean, all the indigenous Europeans.
The whites is what you're getting at.
Yeah, the indigenous. Yeah. Idris Elba is not English or British and will never be. He's not indigenous.
What's your opinion?
Yeah, all of them would be totally on board of, hey, like Trump says, like, hey, if you guys have like similar Bill of Rights like we do, we'll ease up on tariffs because you guys are hurting your own people. I mean, Israel doesn't even have a Bill of Rights. How the fuck are they a greatest ally?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, does any country have a Bill of Rights besides the United States? Canada has something. Canada has like some sort of Charter of Freedoms. Yeah. Yeah, that's the closest thing.
Yeah.
Charter of Rights, sorry, Charter of Rights. So we have a Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is probably close. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of these countries are going to be really surprised when they drop. Like the reciprocal tariffs, I actually totally agree with Trump. India has, first off, a lot of these tariffs are like were put in after World War II. They've just kind of been on the books for 80 years, and we just kind of are like, that's the way of the world now. But like India has like 100% tariffs on all this stuff. All these countries have huge tariffs, but I think they're going to be in for this huge surprise when they drop their reciprocal tariffs. And Trump's like, yeah, I'm still keeping these other tariffs on. We're just not doing reciprocal tariffs, but we're still doing all these other ones.
And yeah, also I wanted to harp on I wanted to respond to you about what you're going off on in the pre-show.
Yeah.
And it's just agreeing with the cause that says like the materialism thing.
Yeah.
We need to bring back the time of when people bought one thing and used it for life.
Preach, brother.
Like,
dude.
That's what just
Dude.
planned obsolescence. Yeah, so stop buying, like, Danny, go back home, throw out anything that's plastic and keep anything that's only wood, metal, or glass.
Okay, well, let me tell you what it's like having a Jewish wife, because planned obsolescence is not even the issue for me. We just moved into a new place. My wife buys something. My wife buys a fucking lamp, and then she's like, I don't like this lamp. And then she tries to return it. Amazon's like, it's too late to return it. So then she just throws it out. It's not even obsolete. It's even worse than that. At least in my house, it's not even obsolete. My wife just goes, I don't like it anymore. I'm like, we've had it for a week. She goes, I don't like it. And she can't return it. I literally fucking built yesterday a new TV stand and this like insane lamp that took me an hour and a half to put together because it was the dumbest fucking lamp design and all these like plastic things. It looks like it's the stupidest thing in the world. I finished building it. My wife's like, I don't like it.
So do you feel like you're not getting appreciated for your efforts?
I get appreciated. She goes, thank you for putting it together. I don't like it. It's not even a lack of appreciation. And the TV stand that we had before, perfectly fine. Dude, I can fucking put my shit on a barrel. It's crazy, but this is what happens when you. So, anyways,
Just communicate that to her. You know, I mean, she's your wife. She's not a wife.
I mean, unfortunately, you're not allowed to
make her understand.
I mean, honestly, I go really hard in my house because I'm trying. Like, if I had one policy that I would bring back, it would be lobotomies. I say it all the time to my wife. I go, I would be happier. You would be happier. You'd be drooling a little bit more, but like we should just bring back lobotomies. I know they're kind of barbaric, but I'm just like, I'm telling you, society was way better off when we had lobotomies. Look at all the people.
Give her like Valium or barbiturates.
No, I don't want to. No, I just want her the front of her brain removed, so that she's just a little more docile.
But how's she gonna be? But you can't have a tarred wife be a trad mother.
She's already a tarred wife. That's the thing, is that ship has sailed. But I'm just like, she'll just be like, dude, you ever see the photos from the 50s when they were still giving lobotomies? Everybody in the after photo looks so much happier.
Can she consent if she's lobotomized? Well, I mean,
no, you can't, dude. I've Googled this recently. Dude, I'm telling you, I Googled this recently. There is nowhere in the world that you get a lobotomy anymore. It's been outlawed everywhere.
Well, they still have the diagrams.
I know they have the diagrams. I mean, maybe somewhere in some like African country, they're doing like backdoor lobotomies or whatever, like backroom lobotomies, but you can't get them anywhere. Dude, I'll travel. I'll tell my wife we're going on a vacation, and then boom, lobotomy.
Well, what is it? Can anyone accuse you of spousal rape, which I think is a myth, if she's lobotomized?
No. That's the thing, is like they don't become like fully like mentally impaired. They just become
like Rose Kennedy.
Yeah, they just become a little more docile and like malleable. They don't argue as much. Like if my wife had a lobotomy, she could be like, I want a new lamp. I go, this lamp's fine. She goes, yeah, you're right. This lamp is fine. That's all it is.
What if you just kept making her give you kids?
What's that?
What if you just made her keep giving you kids?
Well, I don't want that many kids. No. She'll get more jazzed up if we have kids. She'll be like, too many kids. And no, I'm telling you, like we can have lobotomy and kids. You're talking about these things like they're, separate. I'm like, we could do both.
You don't want to get replaced, bro.
I'm not going to get replaced. I'm not going to get replaced.
There's
man.
a mud flood going right now. We're in the middle of a mud flood.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Anyway, Slav, I got to let you go. How many milligrams was that edible, man?
Oh, no, it's these drinks. It's like these
sodas.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sodas get you. Dude, you give me shit all the time for drinking sodas. You're drinking fucking weed sodas?
No, these are THC. Yeah, no, they got like 3 milligrams of sugar.
Oh, that's not bad.
But they got like 10 in each.
Oh, okay. What'd you have? Like a 6-pack? Sounds like you had a 6-pack.
I have like 4 of them. But I feel like 2 right
now. Enjoy the remainder of your night, Slav. Later, man. Slav, everybody. Iron Man Bill says, you know how annoying Jews are, and you marry one. Yeah, I know, Bill. I know. I literally had a policy. She was the first Jewish girl I ever dated. I literally had a policy where I'm like, I don't date Jews. They're so annoying. And then somehow God has just forgotten me, and I was duped. I was tricked. I don't regret my choices, but it was not intentional. Dylan Farnham says, merch idea, low value mail jersey. Back says Trent 43. Not the worst idea. Not the worst idea. I want to make urban moving systems shirts. If you guys know what urban moving systems is, I'm going to make them actually at some point. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. All right, let's take another call. Drew's mad. Apparently Drew's mad. Apparently I'm about to get G-checked by Drew for something I didn't do. Nothing I did. Drew, what's up, man?
What's up, doggy?
Drew, I did not block you from I did not block you from the live chat. I would never do such a thing. I've not blocked anybody.
Where's the YouTube live chat, doggy?
What do you mean, where's the YouTube live chat? Oh, you're watching it on my comedy channel, Drew. Drew,
Oh, God damn it.
Drew, look
so
at the...
I'm gay and retarded?
You are gay and retarded. I literally put a pin thing says go watch. Chat is disabled. Go watch this on the Low Value Mail channel. It's just so I get more viewers because I have like 40,000 subscribers. Mark just said, LOL, Drew is Trent. How does that feel, Drew?
Yeah, I'm fucking retarded. Hey, by the way, can we get a Connor update?
Connor, my dog, he had a FHO, femoral hip something, ostectomy surgery, the top of his femoral head removed about 10 days ago. He's doing amazing, actually. He's walking. He almost looks like, I don't want to say back to new because he's not quite there yet. Dude, the first few days he had no femoral head. The way it works is they literally cut off the top of the femoral head where like your hip joint and your femur connect. So it's just like floating, but then all this scar tissue builds up and it just builds like a false socket. So the first few days he would run around and his leg would be like a fucking pendulum. Like it would go in every direction. It was like so weird to see because it was like healing, but now it's getting like a lot more stable and he can walk like pretty good. He probably has like a month of PT, but then he'll be back in business. He's doing
Hell
good.
yeah, full on doggy.
Yeah,
all right,
sir.
That's about all I got, dude.
All right, thanks, Drew.
Love you. Shout out.
Shout out to the dogs. All right. Let's take another. Yeah, I was like, what the hell? I don't block anybody. If you're watching over on my comedy channel, come on over to the Low Value Mail channel and subscribe to the channel, please. I want to get to 10,000 subscribers on the channel. I'm like 1,000 or something away. Just fucking subscribe to the channel, please. Randy Fitzsimmons, say I'm a sofa king. We Todd Ed. That's fucked up, Randy. Randy, that's fucked up, man. That's just fucked up. Mark says most low value mail call in my time here. Mark also says, have you ever commented on the Trent hysteria in the chat? I haven't commented on the Trent hysteria. I do enjoy the Trent hysteria, though. I'd love Trent to call back again because he was so wrong about literally everything. Trent's probably at a fucking Tesla dealership boycotting. That's what Trent's up to. Trent is literally outside a Tesla dealership. He goes every Saturday with his boyfriend, and they just go, fuck Elon Musk. I hate this guy. He's a fascist. Fucking not giving AIDS medication to people. That's all I got. Okay, we have Rob and Wild Bill. I'm going to give away a patreon.com 6-month membership to one of the super chatters. I forgot to mention that. Oh, excuse me. Okay, well, Rob is not picking up, so we're going to go to Wild Billy from Philly. Bill, are you there?
Danielson.
How's it going, buddy? How are things?
Hey, dude. Not too bad. Weather's nice.
Nice, dude. The weather's beautiful.
Yeah, buddy. Hey, I was wondering, did you ever date a Catholic broad or just Jewish broads?
You know what? I never really interrogated. I never dated anybody religious in any capacity. So I honestly don't know. Nobody like super Catholic, but I never dated anybody. Well, let me think. No, I think kind of just run of the mill. They were all just like kind of regular Christian, but they were like Christian to like the degree of they just did Christmas, you know, maybe some Easter stuff. Nothing, but no Catholic that I can think of. Why?
I was curious about the Jewish the family because my cousin, she's Catholic. She married a Jewish dude. And her parents refused to come to the wedding his parents, the Jewish parents, refused to come to the wedding if there was going to be a priest there.
Yeah,
like,
some Jews
at the wedding.
Yeah, some Jews are like that. Some Jews are like, I think that's like somewhat similar in a lot of faiths or whatever, where people are like you hear about that with people, interracial marriages, where they're like they marry outside of their race, and the parents don't come. But I have heard of that. I know they don't like that. But I'm trying to think if I've experienced that. I have been to weddings that were kind of like both. Normally, it is a weird thing. I've been to a lot of Jewish weddings recently where the rabbi is like some yuppie chick, which I think is like, I know, which is so weird because like there were no female rabbis when I was a kid at all, and now they like dominate fucking weddings because they're generally like super liberal. They don't really do any of the like, religious. They're not very religious, I guess. So it's like it's kind of an in between thing.
No way.
Dude, it's so weird. I'm not even exaggerating. The last 5 Jewish weddings I've been to, and my wedding actually, because it was in Hawaii, and the only options we had were between this like Orthodox rabbi, this guy who was like super hardcore, who was going to make us do all this shit, or this chick. And then the week before the wedding, the chick's like, I had to move from Hawaii. So she's like, I can't do your wedding, which was fucking crazy. And then she just replaced him with this dude who's like an attorney who just like likes doing weddings. But he's like ordained or whatever. But
now they're kicking him out of Hawaii, huh?
No, her deal was because of the fires in Lahaina. She's like, the price of like living in Hawaii got so expensive because she's not like rich or anything. She's like, she's a part-time rabbi, I guess. And it got so expensive that she had to move back to Seattle. Like she was literally like, she's like, I got priced out of Hawaii. She's like, I just have to move. She's like, I'm so sorry, but I can't do your wedding. But it was like a week before. It was fucking annoying. But the dude was cool.
Hey,
but
one last question, real quick. What do you think most Jewish people are blue or red?
Historically blue for sure. Historically, but historically they are definitely more liberal people, I would say. But I think that's changed a bit, especially like with the Israel stuff, like the October 7th shit. I think they were like, oh, because I laughed. Like, I probably shouldn't have brought me any joy, but it brought me so much joy when the October 7th shit happened. And then all these Jewish people were like, wait, I marched in your George Floyd thing. Why aren't you supporting me? And they're like, shut up, colonizer. And I'm like, you idiots. You stupid idiots. You thought they were going to support you, you dumb idiots. Like they literally, like, I mean, Amy Schumer was like that. Like Amy Schumer was like, what the hell? I like did all your bullshit. Why aren't you doing mine? They're like, we hate you.
I wish more Hebrews were like you, just like regular dudes. Honestly,
I
think
don't know.
the world would be better.
I agree. I mean, you got to be the change you want to see in the world. Ain't that right?
That's it, man. God bless, Danny. I love you, dude. I'll talk to you later.
Later, everybody. Billy from Philly, everybody. All right. Okay, I gotta close the phone lines here. Oh man, I gotta be up at fucking 7 a.m. to get my dog's stitches out. That sucks. Although I'm sure some of you have to be up early too. The game's the game. Am I right? Where the fuck is this phone lines closed? All right, we're gonna give away a Patreon. Okay, we're gonna take one last call. Rob, I tried to pick up. He didn't pick up, so now he gets the boot. The boot. And last call of the night, Dave. And we're gonna give away a patreon.com membership to one of the lucky soon-to-be scroats. Sign up for the Patreon, guys. Patreon.com/low-value-mail. MAIL. Dave, are you there?
Yeah. Hey.
What is happening?
Just want to say, huge fan. Second time caller. And Canada's not a real country.
That is not
US
true.
Territory 2025.
That is not. Canada is a real country. Because if it's not, then where the hell am I from?
Not buying it.
Not buying
you're from some kind of like international territory.
Yeah.
Organized by the WEF.
You know what? I mean, I am the first person to say I see a lot of shit out of Canada where I go, Canada. I mean, I've tweeted it many times. I go, Canada is not a real country. Some of the shit that comes out of that place, I go, what are you guys doing? It was a nice place to grow up anyways. The Canada,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
telling
I-
you,
I-
the Canada of my childhood, and I know everybody's like, oh yeah, the childhood, but like, I'm telling you, like 90s Canada was sick. 90s Canada was great. Current Canada, not good. But Canada in the 90s was pretty solid. But I know everybody says that about wherever they're from wherever their childhood.
90s Chicago was great. And now
Yeah, I think it's
it
just
is
the
not.
90s were better. But then again, it's like everybody, you know, you talk to somebody who's 70 and they're like, yeah, the 60s were the shit. So that just might be a common thing among people where they just kind of, yeah, the 90s was good because you didn't have a lot of responsibility.
Yep. Yeah. And, just want to say I have a cousin who grew up Irish Catholic in the suburbs of Houston, converted, and now she is a female rabbi.
I'm telling you, man, these chicks are
10 out of
taking
10.
over the fucking rabbi game. It's crazy.
Yeah, you can confirm 10 out of 10 crazy lib.
Yeah, they're all like the craziest libs. They all have like short hair with like purple streaks in them. And they're all like fucking foo-foo, like new age shit. It's so weird. Dude, the synagogue I used to go to, men and women weren't even allowed to sit together. There was literally a fucking curtain that went down the middle of the aisle so that you couldn't even see the women. Some synagogues, there would be like a balcony and all the women had to go to the balcony. It was the shit. We got to get back to that stuff. That's what we need to get back to.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, I got to let you go though. Thanks, man, for calling in. Canada is totally a real country.
Cool.
Later.
Yep. Thanks. Not a real country.
Dave, everybody. All right, that's been the show. Let's give away a patreon.com membership. If Vince wins, I'll give it away to somebody else because that, I assume, is his wishes. Otherwise, if you win, hit me up, DM me, Instagram, Twitter. You can email lowvaluemailquestions@gmail.com. And the winner is Dylan. Dylan Farnham, everybody. I don't know if I think he's a patron. I can extend your membership. You can give it away, whatever you want. Just let me know. The will of the people is what shall be done. A couple more super chats. Brookings Brown says, Trent, 43, lets his wife abuse their Amazon account. Oh, that feels like me a little bit. Mike Will says, do a show in Burlington or Hamilton again, you coward. Thoughts and prayers. I'll be back. I'm gonna come back to probably Levity in Hamilton. I feel like that's a better situation. And Logan says, new conspiracy, Trent went through a humiliation ritual to become infamous among low value male fans. It was rigged from the start. I wonder if he even knows. I wonder if he's come back and he's like, why do they keep talking about me? He's like, I'm not 43. What the hell is this? What the hell is this malarkey? All right, that's been the show. Join me tomorrow night for an all new episode of the Bathhouse Live, 9 p.m. from the Stand Comedy Club and Green Room. We got a little comedian softball league firing up, and we're going to have some of the players, some of the softball guests on the show. It's going to be a softball extravaganza. All right, that's been the show. Thank you very much, everybody. You are all the best. Love you all. See you soon. Play me out, Chad. Good night.
Really a poet, you know it, all my shit heroic. Empathic abilities, yeah, my face be also stoic. Bleep blow up, nigga, that just means I'm working. They see me as a leader, so that's why I'm Captain Kirkin. These tracks from the stars, that much is for certain. You can feel this hit if you up or if you hurtin'. I'm raising my stock, not talking my feet in some Birkin. Number Johnny 5, got a fucking short circuit. Bring the track to life when I spit phenomenal. When I hit, she feel that shit in her abdominals. These rappers make me laugh like comic view, they comic through. You know I got a ball out, I hit the track running just like Sonic do. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, they was trying to get me on my hype shit. Yeah, they don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, and they tried to down me up some KO type shit. Yeah, they don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, now we pulling up fresh on some flight shit. Ha. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, they don't wanna turn on my light switch. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, they was trying to get me on my hype shit. Yeah, they don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, and they tried to down me up some KO type shit. Yeah, they don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah.